I'll check and see if it came through on the Facebook Live as well.
Oh, why the intro not playing? Somebody changed my settings. Wow, intro video never played. Okay, let me just play it off the top then. Let me play it. Oh, somebody took it down. Okay, all right. Well, we had an intro video ready, but looks like somebody came on the back end and did some editing. Okay, all right. Yep, yep. All
You
right,
want me
family.
to go ahead?
I'm just gonna count it down. All right, all right, all right. Appreciate y'all. Welcome back to the Ethereal Journey podcast, and thanks for joining us. All right, all right. With that being said, of course, as per usual, we have a information pack session for you this evening. All right, I got Pollinator coming back on board. All right, excellent, excellent. Let me just tap in real quick, see how you be, how you been, checking in. How's everything, brother Pollinator? You on mute? You gotta unmute yourself.
Oh, check one, check two. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. There you go. We got you.
No, you were saying what you.
No, I was saying, what I mean, how you be, how you been, checking in. What's the latest?
Oh man, all gravy on the rice, baby. I always say, I'm not too high, I'm not too low, trying to keep it in the middle somewhere so I can continue to grow. Keep that balance, man, and not be too high, not be too low. So everything is
Indeed.
gravy. Like I said, you know what I mean? As we used to have back in the day, the whipped cream on top of the jello, you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
or, or the pudding, or the chocolate pudding, because I hated vanilla pudding. I ain't like no vanilla pudding, you know what I mean? So yeah, but other than that, man, just keeping everything copacetic, you know what I mean? In alignment with the balance, the alignment, stability, and synchronicity with what's going on in the universe right now, because we see what's happening in the world. People can keep their head buried in the sand like an ostrich if they want to, but you see the shifts are happening. The Mother Earth is moving like she moves, the cosmos are moving like they move, and the earthlings and the human beings are doing what they do, acting out of chaos and confusion, because we in Babylon. Babylon is confusion, and a lot of people are confused right now. But we here to help raise the consciousness of our beautiful Mother Earth and the people of the earth that are really to transcend the sin and bring forth their elevation of to a higher consciousness by internal technology, as we always say, and looking for the kingdom within yourself, not without, because without you're gonna get caught up and you're gonna end up falling apart with all the madness that's happening in the earth right now. People's hearts are failing for fear of the things that are hitting this earth and coming forth and manifesting. So I just want to encourage our Ethereal Journey audience, the Ethereal journalists, and anybody else that's tuning in and tapping into this 46th episode of the EJP, right?
46, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to encourage everybody to continue on your ethereal journey, tap into your internal technology, the queendom or the kingdom within you. And let's just keep on knowing, getting to know yourself, do your shadow work, do your trauma, cleansing, do your pain cleansing, alchemize that, transmute it, and then turn it into beautiful blessings and success and prosperity, abundance and wealth. Now, let's get this 46th episode on. How about yourself though, Captain Uncaged? What's how you be and how you been under
Oh
the sun
yeah,
today?
yeah. Oh man, everything's everything. You know what I mean? What is meant to be shall be. But I'm just happy to be here. You know what I mean? Blessed by the best. Uh, Pleased that I could wake up this morning and have another opportunity to continue to learn, grow, and develop. You know what I mean? And to accomplish my mission and purpose on this planet. So with that, I'm ecstatic. I'm very thankful.
Man, that's a beautiful thing to have something that you know you have a destiny to fulfill. You have a purpose to obtain and to complete your mission and your assignment. You're just not down here on some shits and giggles and some you know, bread, wine, and circus like a lot of people are on, you know. So I applaud you. I applaud you, man, for knowing that you have a purpose, man. And I encourage all of the Ethereal Journey audience to know you're not just here to merely exist and to check up out of here and let the Grim Reaper come and unalive you from your meat suit and your avatar. You're here to fulfill something. So we encourage people to stay on your pathway and complete your job, complete your assignment, complete your mission. So I appreciate you saying those words. I yield.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Much appreciated. All right. All right, family. With that being said, we are going to jump into a little bit of current events. All right, this evening. Okay, and we're gonna mix it up quite well. You know what I mean? Got some black facts going, and we're going to get into some Hollywood aspects as well, and talk about what is the goings ons locally, nationally, and internationally. All right. So let me see. I'm going to get started with our first clip for the evening. Matter of fact, let me see if I can knock off a little bit of housekeeping. Let me try to get that out the way first and foremost. All right. Let me see if I can knock off some housekeeping. Okay, here we go. All right, let me do this disclaimer. All right, let me share my screen right here, family. Let's see, coming up. All right, yeah, screen share. Probably should have did it on another computer. Let me share my screen. The screen share off. There it is, right here. Boom. Uh oh, where'd it happen? What happened to it? Oh, okay, there it is. Boom. Got it. Got it. Okay, that should be popping up on the screen. All right, making sure. I gotta come on multiple devices, family, because this technology be acting tricky. Uh, okay, all right, cool, cool. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Can you see the screen, Pollinator? Oh, I gotta add Pollinator back to the.
Yep. It's
Oh, okay.
on point.
All right, got you, got you. All right, cool, cool. All right, family, let's take care of a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to jump right into the proceedings this evening. All right, content disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in the media or comments on this channel are those of the speakers or authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by this channel's broadcaster. Due to the social nature of this channel broadcasting, videos may contain content copyrighted by another entity or person. This channel owner claims no copyright to said content. The broadcaster of this channel cannot be held accountable for the copyrighted content. The broadcaster of this channel is a messenger and share of information and strive to verify but cannot warrant the accuracy of copyrights or completeness of the information on this channel. If you have a complaint about something or find your content is being used incorrectly, please contact the broadcaster prior to making a copyright claim. Any infringement was not done on purpose and will be rectified to all parties' satisfaction. All right. And I got one more for y'all. I'm gonna share the fair use. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen on that. Let me share my screen. Okay, fair use. Here we go, right here. All right, let me expand that. All right, fair use notification. Notice, family. All right. So, in accordance with 107 of USC copyright law, 17 USC 107. All right, this information is being used in fair use for educational and informational purposes solely. All right. All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay. All right, family. With that being said, of course, Facebook is acting funny. I might got to reload that. It's always something. I tell you what, it is always something. So I'm gonna try to get that together. Try to reload that. Hopefully, um, at the same time, I'll be able to do that while I'm queuing up this next video. All right. So let me come here with some current events, and then I'll see if I can get things underway. Hold on, let's see that. Hold on. Okay, there it is. All right, let me come here and share this next video. Okay. All right, let me take it to the timestamp. Here we go right here. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen, family. All right, a little bit of current events. Let's jump into that, and then we'll come back to the theory of journaling and see if anybody has a comment or a question in the audience as well. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here, family. And thank you for joining us once again. All right, this is a snippet from Democracy Now! I will hear a little bit from Democracy Now! Also on an interview that was done about 13 years ago. It is interesting how, the predictions that was made then are ringing true today. All right. That should be up on the screen. All right, let me let this rock.
Federal Appeals Court blocked criminal court clerk Calvin Duncan from taking office Monday, which was scheduled to be his first day on the job. Duncan won election to the post in November, just 5 years after his release from prison after serving 28 years for a murder he did not commit. He was exonerated in 2021 and earned his law degree a year later at age 60. His position was eliminated last Friday when the Republican governor, Jeff Landry, signed legislation abolishing it. Governor Landry also canceled upcoming primary elections following Thursday's Supreme Court ruling, which struck down the last remaining major provision of the Voting Rights Act. On Monday, protesters marched through the streets of New Orleans, demanding an end to racist gerrymandering of Louisiana's congressional maps and the reinstatement of Calvin Duncan to his elected position.
Calvin Duncan won a race with 68% of the vote. So that's the citizens of New Orleans. I think that should be honored and respected. And the fact that it's not, I think anybody who have a sense of right and wrong should stand up against that, because that's a direct strike against democracy. And if we don't stand against this, then, America is just dissolving, as far as I'm concerned.
Alabama's state legislature adjourned a special session Monday after demonstrators entered the state house in Montgomery to protest Republican plans to adopt a gerrymandered map that dilutes the power of Black voters. Currently, an injunction bars Alabama from redrawing its congressional maps before 2030. But following the Supreme Court's ruling last week gutting the Voting Rights Act, Republican Attorney General Steve Marshall filed an emergency motion asking a court to lift the prohibition. This is Dee Reed, an organizer with Black Lives Matter.
It is a strategic attempt to erase the Voting Rights Act, which we know is our strongest protection against disenfranchisement. Protections that were not given. Protections that were fought for right here in Alabama by the people from Selma, by the people from Greenville, by the people from Birmingham, and by the people from Montgomery.
A new investigation by the Washington Post looks at the increasing use of force by guards against immigrants detained in ICE jails nationwide.
All right. Let me stop the screen share there, family. All right. Just wanted to play that quick snippet. Shout out to Democracy Now! And that was in reference to the changing of legislation and elimination of an office for an elected official, who had won and overwhelmingly amounts of the votes in Louisiana. Okay, and the office was dissolved, I believe, a few short days before he was ready to serve. Okay, so what's presently happening is there is a remixing of legislative acts, uh, most specifically pertaining to different voting right acts that are currently being uh, redressed. All right, and in some a lot of ways, just gutted, eliminated, and stricken from the records. All right, so the if you saw the thumbnail, the title of today's podcast, is dealing with the delusion of democracy. All right, are we coming to a space and a place now where even the aspects of illusion and delusion that we are indeed in a democratic society, is that now falling to the wayside? Can we say that now those uh, imaginations of inclusion, have been really laid to rest. And what's coming to the forefront is, kind of the foundation and the fundamentals of, the government in the United States here, and dealing with its long-standing history of racism, fascism, imperialism, and so forth. All right. So with that, let me come to the Ethereal journalist and get any additions on that. All right. Thoughts and opinions on the clip that we just saw. Let me see if I can pull up an article too, simultaneously, to get some additional information. All right. All right. Let me come to the Ethereal journalist. Any additions?
And we need to welcome Empress Sister Empress Key, and she just came in.
Indeed.
All right. Greetings, everyone. So, when I saw that clip, and of course I heard about, how that was playing out some couple of weeks back, actually, but now to see it kind of manifest in the way that it is. So, this is, I'm really kind of glad in a way, because people have been under an illusion for decades, thinking that, this so-called democracy or whatever, it is supposedly real, and it is not. It has never been. And so now it's becoming a bit clearer that it isn't. And so a perfect example is, and I hear, again, in Philly and in other cities, the discussion about freedmen. And, we have to let people know that any laws that these people make, they have a history of undoing it. So this, what we just saw, is nothing new. I mean, needless to say, because again, there was the 40 acre and the mule legislation that occurred, and then it disappeared. And this is other things too, that over the years, over the decades, we've seen. So why folks don't get it at this point, it just baffles my mind. But fortunately, we're here, Ethereal Journey and others are moving to have what I call our own everything. And so rather than to just keep depending on these people and believing what they say and try to follow their philosophies and concepts of things, fortunately for some, we are done with that. at least to the degree that it was. And we're really looking now to develop our own everything, including concepts of how to govern, concepts as to what philosophies we need to be embracing, and so forth and so on. So, hey, let's see more of this, as far as I'm concerned. I yield.
All right, all right. Thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. What say you, Brother Pollinator?
On this ethereal journey, that's one thing I majored in when I was in college. I majored in political science. And like my professor told us when we first walked into class, he said, if y'all trying to be lawmakers or lawyers, know one thing about politics. Poly meaning many, ticks meaning blood-sucking creatures. You got some blood-sucking creatures like a tick that could suck an infection out of your body and heal you, and you got some bloodsuckers like vampires that will siphon your energy and take your soul. And it shocked me when he first said it, because I came in, how you come into school, you're willing to learn, you're willing to open your ears up and hear whatever the professor or the instructor has to say. But that right there rung in my ears all the way up until now. So I say that to say this is what we're seeing currently, not in just this country, but all over the country, all over the world. Politics are at its finest. And the reason why we call it politics, because you got people acting like they Houdini. You got people acting like they David Copperfield. They pulling rabbits out of hats out of nowhere. It's like, yo, I thought, what kind of illusion are you pulling out? When you're out here doing these politics. And I hate to say it, but Black people, particularly Black politicians, have gotten caught up in the illusion of politics. And one of the reasons why we can't have anything that actually benefits our community for the greater good is because these politricksters, they have went to DC and they became part of the swamp. They're swamp creatures right now, And one thing I can say about Trump, even though sometimes he says things that come out of his mouth, but sometimes it seems like he's also engaged in those same type of behaviors, is that there's a swamp going on up there. You got lizards, you got turtles, you got alligators, crocodiles, all kinds of stuff that's moving around in the swamp, unabated at what they do. But we're humans. We're the highest form of creation, and we should operate with the integrity of knowing that our people that we represent as our constituents from our different districts or whatever around the country deserve better representation. So now we're going back to 250 years ago when this country was founded, which is this is the 250th year that we're celebrating, or they're celebrating their independence, so-called. We're going back to taxation without representation. All of our money, they take it out of our checks, and they're using it for whatever they want to use it for, whether it's the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, pet projects from different states that cost millions and sometimes billions of dollars. And we're sitting there with our hands, empty and nothing coming back for the money that we put into the pot. So going back to the original situation of why this country was founded, which was founded, as we know, on mutiny and rebellion. King George trying to tax the doggone people of the so-called New World and send their money back to Great Britain without any representation in their parliament, the British Parliament. So we're back to square one again. So this is very ironic that we're in our 250th year and we're still dealing with the same crap that this country was founded on, taxation without representation. So with that being said, I yield.
Indeed.
One other quick sidebar to that. The other thing that was a part of their so-called revolution that I think needs to be noted, and it's now again today, something that is a part of what we're seeing, and that is what some call classism. The mere fact that at some point it appears that people get a little fed up with the elitism or the superialism or whatever it is, and then they start rebelling against it. And that too was a part of it, not wanting any longer to deal with that so-called hegemony or hierarchy kind of thing. So this is now, and again, we're seeing it today with the demonstrations, no king or whatever it is kind of stuff. So it's all, resonates in the same kind of mindset. But the other thing I wanted to also add is that some of this is now on us. And what I mean by that is we will not support entities that focus on self-determination, our own attempt to govern ourselves to a greater extent. And we've seen that for the past 100 years as well. So, why is that? And so I'm just saying, we've had those examples in different types of ways, but yet, for whatever reason, our people still will not support independent kinds of operations and capabilities and desires to do for self. We had that problem. And so the Willie Lynch chip and all the other things that's relevant to that, unfortunately, is still very much in effect.
Indeed, indeed. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna see if I can pull a clip in a hot second, though. But speaking of, since we on that subject matter, the May Day, there was a series of protests that was happening. They did one here in Philadelphia, pertaining to what they was calling May Day, and pushing back, protesting, not going to school, not going to work, and protesting for workers' rights. That seemed to be the forefront theme for the protests and rallies. All right, so I want to bring it to you all. What's your thoughts on some of these recent protests with May Day? I guess we can also include, as Sister Empress mentioned, the No King's Day and things of this nature. What's your thoughts on these progressions and how it relates specifically to Black people? All right, any thoughts on that?
Okay, well, I mean, and I think we kind of mentioned this a little bit on New Day, and that again is our people continue to just fall into being hoodwinked. And we love to celebrate, we love to commemorate stuff, particularly when it's kind of generated or coming from other people. And so we gave a little history about May Day on New Day, meaning that it had a dual kind of function. Initially, it was really a ritual that was done in Europe to commemorate spring, summer, things of that. And, the children would get ribbons and tie them around a pole, and they would, do a procession around the pole and things of that nature. So it literally throughout England, throughout Europe, actually, they did this thing called May Day. And then as time went on, it became not just about a festive kind of thing, but more about a demonstration or a response to governments or corporations and things of that nature. And again, this was the workers standing up because they wanted better wages or more employment and things of that nature. So unions began to come into play. And with that, they begin to create things that would enable them to organize and mobilize and things of that nature. And so needless to say, for our people, we would latch on to whatever we could, anything that we even thought was going to help us. And so certainly the organized unions had the capability to, to do certain things. And at some point they did really kind of help in bringing about, some forms of justice, or if not justice, some other levels of freedom. So, I see the connection to May Day in that regard, in that type of commemoration, but in terms of how it really operates today, that's a whole nother question, whole nother conversation. Okay, we're not hearing anyone.
Check
Okay,
one, two.
okay. Yeah,
I'm here.
There we are.
all right. Yes. So thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. Anything to add on that, Brother Pollinator?
You know, it's all congruent with the alignment of everything in the stars and in the universe. You know, you got May Day, you got Cinco de Mayo, which represents, you know, Mexico's independence over the French Empire, and I think it was like the early 1800s, well, 18, right around, not too far. I think it was right before we ended slavery here in America, or so-called ended slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. So, you know, these are some very trying times where wage workers or people that got more month at the end of the money than money at the end of the month are becoming, you know, discontented with the situation where, you know, it's like they're chasing that dangling carrot. They can never grab that son of a gun good enough to get a good bite out of it because they're always pulling it back from you and you're barely making ends meet. And then you all of a sudden, you know, you become discontented with the whole situation and you got gas prices going through the roof where you're actually putting more money to get to work as opposed to making money to cover those new costs that come up from the gas prices spiking due to that crazy behind situation over in Iran. So it's like, you know, freedom is what people strive for. You know, Mexico fought today, and I just want to say to all my Hispanic brethren and sistren to happy Cinco de Mayo, independence from French, another colonization situation that they actually overcame and won because they weren't going to sit down and play games with the colonizers at that time, who were the French that were coming into Mexico to do what they were trying to do to them. So bottom line is this whole, you know, country, as well as the world. I know you guys saw some of the clips of some of the other May Day protests in different countries around the world. See, so America is not the only one where the people are now upset about their current living conditions, their current ability to try to pay for this, that, and third to support their families. And you could see it. It's the whole matrix system of the government is glitching right now. The whole matrix system is crashing out, and the people are like the seas roaring. They're rising up, and they're starting to let their voice be known that we're not going to continue to play this game because our children are suffering, not enough food on the plate, not enough money to pay for electrical bills and all the other you know, necessities that you need to live comfortably while you still, you know, trying to go out here and work and do what you got to do to support your family. People are upset. So now going back to the politics part of it, in my eyes, and you probably, you know, might agree or might not, the politicians never gave a damn about an individual's right to self-determination, which includes just taking care of the basic necessities for your family, getting some needs met, or getting most needs met, and then probably trying to graduate to wants and desires. Right now, needs are not being met. Forget wants and desires. So these people are upset because they can't have the engagement of life, liberty, and what we call the pursuit of happiness, which what the Constitution says. Who is pursuing happiness when you got all this foolishness going on where people can barely survive to take care of their own family and their own home front? So it's a sick cycle that has come back around again because, you know, this has happened throughout the history of this country and the history of the world. And we're back to square one where the politricksters could care less because they don't give a damn. They just want your money to take care of what they want to take care of while you sit up there and suffer and you put all your money in the pot and you get nothing in return. So back to taxation without representation. Just like the Queen of France would say, I think it's time for off with all their heads. And I don't mean that literally. I just mean time to get rid of these people if we can, because they're not helping their own constituents, especially the CBC, the Congressional Black Caucus. I don't even know who most of those members are. They don't do nothing for us but sell out, gatekeep, flying monkeys for their handlers, whoever is in the witch's castle that tells them to go do what they ask them to do. You really think they're in our corner for our best interests at heart? So those people are the ones that we really got to start looking and focusing on and highlighting and spotlighting, because they're just as much detrimental to our progress as a people. When you talk about, you know, how does these things affect us as Black people living in America? That's how it affects us. Our own politicians, politricksters in our own communities that come from really resource poor communities that deserve better services and constituency advocacy for their communities, and they're not getting any of those things. So off with all their heads, man. Go back to England when the king or the queen says off with their heads, get them up out of here. Let their heads roll. I yield.
Heard. All right, yes, sir, yes, sir. So let me jump in. Let me get into some quick clips, and just give a little bit more context to some of those stories we were just mentioning. First, let me come over and let me do a quick recap for our brother Calvin Duncan. All right, who was denied office. All right, let me go ahead and share that screen really quickly. Okay. All right, Calvin Duncan. Okay. Hopefully you can see my screen. It should be appearing presently. Calvin Duncan, a wrongfully convicted exoneree who was elected as Orleans Parish Clerk of Criminal Court of New Orleans, was blocked from assuming office after Louisiana Republicans passed and Governor Jeff Laundrie signed legislation eliminating the position just days before his May 4th, 2026 swearing in. Okay, so that was supposed to take place yesterday. Duncan, who spent nearly 30 years in prison before being exonerated in 2021, all right, for a crime that he did not commit, won the November 2025 election with 68% of the vote, running on a platform of justice reform. All right. Arrested in 1982 and falsely convicted and imprisoned for an unaliving that he did not commit. All right. So this brother just continuously gets the short end of the stick. He just continuously gets the brunt of the injustice system. All right. From the base level of mass incarceration to the higher tiers of political office. Okay. Showing you that, it's all fair in war and politics. All right. So this is the briefing on that. Let me stop my screen share there. Matter of fact, let me just come over to my other piece. Let me just jump into this aspect of the worldwide May Day protests. All right. And I want to touch base on something concerning that as well. That should be pulled up now. Okay, perfect. And let me let it rock. All right, let me pause it real quick just to get a quick couple captions. All right, the previously caption was saying that the workers were fighting for workers' rights. All right, internationally, May 1st is International Workers' Day and is a public holiday in many countries. One country that is not a holiday in is the US of A. All right, let me let it rock. All right. Caption says this year's protest highlights rising living costs, some link to the war in Iran. All right, let me stop my screen share there, or should I say pause it there? All right, and now we're going to come to a brief history on Cinco de Mayo. All right, let me go ahead and share this tab, and let's get it cooking.
Every May 5th, Americans across the U.S. take the opportunity to celebrate Cinco de Mayo with parades, parties, mariachi music, folk dancing, Mexican food, and of course, margaritas. But what really happened on the 5th of May? And what are we really celebrating? For starters, it's not Mexican Independence Day, as many people mistakenly believe. Mexico actually celebrates its independence on September 16th. Instead, Cinco de Mayo commemorates an event that happened some 50 years after Mexico won its independence. In 1861, Mexican President Benito Juarez declared that his country was too poor to pay its debts to foreign nations, prompting France to invade Mexico and make it a French territory. But when French troops approached the town of Puebla on May 5, 1862, a ragtag band of Mexican troops managed to defeat them, despite being outnumbered 2-1. Though it ultimately failed to halt the French advance on Mexico City, the victory became a symbol of Mexican resistance against French imperialism. With U.S. support, the Mexicans were eventually able to push out the French for good and restore Juarez to power. By that time, the Cinco de Mayo spirit had spread to the United States. Soon after the victory in Puebla, Americans of Mexican heritage used the day as inspiration for the Union struggle in the Civil War. Americans in the midst of Civil War were inspired by the Mexican victory and began celebrating the 5th of May with parades, dances, speeches, banquets, and bullfights. Today, Cinco de Mayo is actually a bigger holiday in the US than in Mexico, where it's mostly celebrated in the state of Puebla. So when you raise your glass on Cinco de Mayo, take an extra moment to honor the surprisingly American history behind this Mexican holiday.
All right, there you have it. All right, let me stop my screen share there. Okay, family. So just, a brief bit of context with some of the stories that we've covered thus far. All right. And so with the May Day, also, with Sister Empress was adding in, I would say on that base level, I can appreciate it, and the fact that it's able to galvanize individuals, not only locally, nationally, but internationally, for the cause of workers' rights, right, and fairness and wages, and making sure that folks can sustain themselves with the rising cost of living, so on and so forth, right. The aspects of the rising costs of healthcare, food, fuel, and so forth, right? And so, of the utmost of importance, and I think it's a good issue to be able to rally around, that kind of spans across the board, all right, spanning across borders of race, religion, ethnicity, and so forth. So I think those things can be used as a galvanizing tool, right, on a more general basis and sense of things. And definitely got to applaud that effort. You know what I'm saying? Simultaneously, at the same time, I had to make sure that I spotlight the issues or the inabilities for people to rally around these same issues as it pertains to Black people. Okay, so I have to point out those contrasts, right? Especially as it pertains to Black people, right? I see Black people involved in a lot of different protests and rallies and movements and things of that nature. Now, this is something that is in a general sense, right? But when it comes to things that are specifically for Black people, right, and are brought to the forefront by the community, by grassroots organizations and so forth, not by the politicians, not by the corporations, all right, and on all the hoopla that goes along with that, I don't see the same energy. I don't see the same level of excitement, the same level of commitment, the same level of sacrifice, the same level of fortitude. Okay, so one thing I can name within that is Black Solidarity Day, right? Something that has been on the books and celebrated since the 70s, right? But unfortunately, Black people locally and nationally, let's talk about locally and nationally, do not support collectively this initiative, Black Solidarity Day, which also is inclusive, or in turn, promotes the fact that Black folks should not go to school, should not go to work, and others such activities, right? It was originally put forward by Dr. Carlos, right, with the notion coming from a play called The Day of Absence, where Black people exited, for a day from everything that was happening on a national level within that play, right? And so it was inspired by that play, and it was to say that really we have the capabilities, right, collectively, economically. And if we were to band together in that sense, we could really show the power of the Black dollar and the impact that we have economically. And, with that, if we abstain from spending, the ramifications that they would have economically nationwide. All right. Which, if we did that for one day, would really begin to show a level of power, I believe, that goes unbeknownst to most Black folks, right? And I think would give us a tremendous amount of pride and confidence, right, about our abilities and about the power of the Black dollar. But unfortunately, as I started off, I don't see the same type of energy. So, I wanted to put that out there, and I would implore us all collectively to stand together when it comes to Black matters, right, that are put forth by, the Black leaders, quote unquote, that were elected by the people, not by the government, not by a corporation, not with fanfare, with idols, with sports and entertainment. I'm talking about the people who are tried and true, who have been pushed to the forefront based on their principles, based on their ideals, their ideology, based on a level of commitment and so forth to the community, right? To the betterment, to the upliftment of the entire community, the entire race. Okay. Sacrificing life and limb in order to do so. All right. So Dr. Carlos E. Russell, you know what I mean? Shout out to that great, historic figure, that great ancestor who put forward Black Solidarity Day. And I would encourage all of you to tap more into that, get more information on that, get better educated on that, so that this year, we can come together collectively and show our, the power of the Black dollar. All right. And that power of that melanated muscle. Okay. So, just a brief context and history based on, what was presented and some of the contrast to, how Black folks specifically, I believe need to still further step their game up and get their act together. All right. Let me come to the Ethereal journalist for any additional comments before we move on to the next.
You gave a great explanation and analysis on it, so I'm good.
All right. Yes, sir. All right. So let me come to the next clip. I want to play this brief clip, and it is some past commentary. Speaking of May Day, now another aspect I want to highlight, and we're going to get further into detail with our next episode, because it's going to be on the 12th. All right, which is short of the Philly May Day for May 13th, with the bombing of the Move compound and a square block radius, destroying upmost of 61 homes. All right, that are still feeling the devastations till today. Okay, so when we talk about justice, aspects of justice, I'll be remiss if I didn't mention the terroristic acts that was waged by the U.S. government. All right, specifically with the at the current time, the mayor of Philadelphia, the first Black mayor, coincidentally enough, I don't believe it was coincidence at all. All right, I believe it's very intentional and purposeful. All right, so the bombing of Osage Avenue, okay, May 13th, 1985. All right, and the unaliving of 11 people and 5 children. Okay, so least we forget, family. Let's also keep the same energy as it pertains to May Day, May 13th, Philadelphia, PA, 1985. As we remember the lives lost and the atrocities of that day, where an incendiary device was dropped by the Philadelphia Police Department onto a residential home, destroying an entire, block community, square block radius almost. Okay, so also want to make mention of that for May. All right, well, now with that, we have Baba Mumia Abu Jamal, who is a current political prisoner serving life. All right, that was previously on death row, where the state continuously tries to assassinate him. All right, and serving over 4 decades behind the walls in the belly of the beast. Okay, now I have a clip I want to play. All right, he just had a recent earthly anniversary, April the 24th. All right, there was a week-long protest and rally session that was going on for Mumia Week. Okay, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to put out the plight of our political prisoners and the need to fight for their freedom. All right, now these are individuals who have given up everything, shed blood, sweat, and tears in order to make sure that different aspects and elements of injustices was pushed to the forefront, and they continue to fight against. All right, so I want to bring attention to currently the Panther 3. All right, that's Baba Mumia Abu Jamal. Okay, as well as Kenny Zulu Whitmore. Okay, as well as Baba Kamal Siddiqui. Okay, and shout out to all those behind the wall and facing injustices, as we just saw. That the people like, oh well, why would they wrongly convict? These people must be guilty. We've seen evidence time and time again where people are falsely accused and falsely incarcerated. We just saw, based on the case of Brother Duncan, right, who was incarcerated for 30 years for a crime he didn't commit, and then attempted to run for political office and was ousted there as well. Okay, so these things aren't foreign, family. Okay, they're not unheard of. All right, so and that's just one instance. There's a plethora. There's dozens of cases of people who have currently been exonerated after serving 15, 20, 30 plus years for crimes they didn't commit. Okay, based on being targeted, based on legal misconducts, right, corruption, and the things that happen and go on with this injustice system, family. All right, when you base a system on the oppression, degradation, and enslavement of a people, I mean, it's no wonder that the things that are built from it are flawed and corrupted. Okay, so we got to call a spade, facts is facts, and we got to call things as they are, family. All right, with that being said, let me come and let me play this video clip of Baba Mumia of a past interview, right, on Democracy Now! We played a little bit of Democracy Now! Earlier, and just to show how these things reign true till today. All right, now these are some predictions that was made by Baba Mumia 13 years ago. All right, now these things are coming to pass presently, family. All right, so Baba Mumia Abu Jamal, renowned journalist, award-winning journalist, noted as or given the title of Voice of the Voiceless. Okay. Also, esteemed community member, activist, developing as the Minister of Information in the Black Panther Party at the age of 16. All right. Targeted ever since by the FBI, COINTELPRO, J. Edgar Hoover, and the Philadelphia Police Department, and the mayor Frank Rizzo. All right, with his fascist regime. All right, known for cracking skulls and knocking heads. Okay, and so Bob Mumia was avidly putting out information and articles that were highlighting the police brutality that was going on in the city. That was rampant. Okay, and the injustices that was waged against the MOVE organization, which many journalists would not touch. Okay, we're talking about aspects of journalistic integrity, family, and the ability to put it all on the line for what's right, for what is just, what is righteous. Okay, so these are the accrements of Baba Mumia Abu Jamal. All right, who has never had even a traffic ticket before he was falsely convicted of this heinous crime. All right. Now, again, the same police department, family, who bombed a residential neighborhood. This is the one and the same, who was known in the 70s to be investigated by the FBI for one of the most corrupt police districts in U.S. history. One and the same, family. Let's go to the commentary. Let's go to the clip. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen. And let's hear from the words from the mouth of Baba Mumia Abu Jamal.
Documentary, which you also are in. That documentary is premiering in theaters today. It's called Long Distance Revolutionary, A Journey with Mumia Abu Jamal. In 1982, Mumia Abu Jamal was sentenced to die for killing Philadelphia police officer Daniel Faulkner. He's always maintained his innocence as perhaps America's most famous prisoner. In 2011, an appeals court upheld his conviction, but also vacated his death sentence. It found jurors were given confusing instructions. When prosecutors said they would no longer pursue the death penalty, Mumia Abu Jamal was transferred into the general prison population. In a moment, we're going to play an excerpt from the film, but first we're joined by Mumia Abu Jamal himself from prison in Pennsylvania, not SCI Green, where he was on death row, but Mumia, welcome to Democracy Now! Why don't you tell us where you are?
Good morning. I'm in the eastern side of Pennsylvania for the first time in a quarter of a century, actually more. It's called Mahanoy. Don't ask me what it means. I have no idea. But it's not far from Philadelphia and pretty close to New York City.
Can you tell us what it means to no longer be on death row?
Well, I could, but I'd be lying because I call this slow death row. Life in Pennsylvania means life. Pennsylvania has one of the largest life populations of any state in the United States. It had the distinction of having the absolute highest number of juvenile lifers of any state in the United States, indeed of any jurisdiction in the world. So that should give you some sense.
Juan, if you're still there, if you'd like to ask Mumia Abu Jamal a question.
Well, Mumia, I know that over the years, it's been a while since we've talked, but over the years, this enormous movement has developed around the world demanding your freedom and insisting on the unjust nature of the trial that occurred many years ago in your case. Your reflections on this enormous movement that has developed and its role in terms of the prison industrial complex in general, in your case in particular.
Well, I think it is the essence of a grassroots movement because it came from the bottom, not from the top. These were people who, many of whom I knew in freedom and who would not let me go and would not leave me alone, and held on to me despite every challenge. At the core, of course, are people that I fell in love with many years ago, known as the MOVE organization. And so from several members of the MOVE organization, Pam Africa, Ramona Africa, they built around them a grassroots organization that is in many ways unprecedented in organizing. You know, I've studied movements. I've been in movements all my life. I've, written a few history books about the stuff. But to be in the core of it and see it is another thing. And it's nothing less than remarkable. And it continues to grow, to build, and to demand an end to mass incarceration, an end to what I've called slow death row, and into solitary confinement. It's a vibrant movement. Like every movement, it ebbs, it flows. But to be perfectly honest, it's still with us. And anyone who denies that either is blind or a fool.
Mumia, are you still appealing your case?
Yes. I have always appealed. I have always fought, and there's no reason to not do so now. In this point in time, we are kind of in an interim because we had kind of a shadow sentencing with no presence, no arguments, no briefs, no anything. We kind of got an order one day saying, you're a lifer. That isn't what the rules provide. And so there's been certainly resistance on that score. But, anyone who knows anything about the case, anyone who's read the Amnesty International report on the case knows that my case is rife with new rules all the time. So this is just new rules.
Last week, Mumia Abu-Jamal, did you witness the inauguration, the second inauguration of President Obama? And I'm wondering your thoughts.
I did indeed. It was with a mixture of sadness in some respects, sadness at lost opportunities, but also a kind of wonder. I mean, you have to admit that Barack Hussein Obama is one of the most talented politicians and skillful political forces this country's ever seen. Now, it is also true that that is so largely because of certain constituencies in this country that pushed that candidacy. Sadness because many of the hopes of many of those constituencies have been dashed. That's the nature of politics in many ways. You run one way and you rule another. And someone, I think it was Mario Cuomo, said that you run in poetry, but you govern in prose.
Mumia, as you are off of death row, or as you call it, slow death row, what is it like to be there with other people? We wanted to speak to you yesterday on the phone, but you had an appointment at the law library, which you didn't want to miss. Talk about your life behind bars.
Well, let me talk about the men that are around me. It may not surprise you that a lot of these guys are black men. A lot of them are very old black men. I remember and still feel the shock of seeing a line of men in wheelchair being rolled to chow. I stopped because you saw these wheelchairs coming out of the mist. I've never seen anything like that. But from this great expanse of age, you can see very, very young men who don't even shave. So you can see the span of black manhood from teenagers, literally teenagers, to men in their 60s and 70s and beyond. And it is a stunning thing to see. And the size, there must be 2,200 men in this population, but the size is just stunning. And to be walking around in the midst of 400, 500 men is an experience that I had to relearn because I had surely forgotten it.
You're writing a book, yet another book in prison. You've written a number of them.
Yes. This is my second with a co-author, Steve Vittoria, the great filmmaker.
Who is joining us right here in the studio right now.
We are, shall we say, Zenian historians. So we're looking at the world, looking at the empire through our own eyes, and writing out of not just our research, although the research is extensive. We're writing out of our hearts and out of our experiences. And in the spirit of Howard Zen, it is from below, deep, deep below.
This call is from the State Correctional Institution at Mahanoy and is subject to monitoring and recording.
But I assure you, we will present something richer than many people have ever seen before. It is a labor of historical lust and great fun.
What are you calling the book?
Murder Incorporated.
Why that title?
Well, it comes from LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who, upon the assassination of John F. Kennedy, when he acceded to the presidency and he began getting reports about what was happening in Central America, he was famously quoted as saying, "My God, we're running a goddamn Murder Incorporated down here." And indeed they were.
I know that your line is going to be cut off in a minute, and I was wondering, what message do you have to people outside the bars right now?
Well, increasingly, that space has expanded, because if you look inside the bars, you're looking at millions of men and women and juveniles, as I noted before. But even beyond that, I mean, how free are we today, those who claim to be non-prisoners? Your computers are being read by others in government. Your letters, your phone calls are being intercepted. We live now in a national security state where the United States is fast becoming one of the biggest open-air prisons on earth. I mean, we can speak about freedom, and the United States has a long and distinguished
60 seconds remaining.
Long and distinguished history of talking about freedom. But have we exampled freedom? And I think the answer should be very clear. We have not. And we're becoming a less free nation every day. And I think people should rise up, and I think they should organize, and I think, frankly, they should raise hell. You know, if you don't want to join our movement, join some movement. But damn it, do something, because we are in an age that we may never be able to capture again.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
So,
Mumia, if the widow of Daniel Faulkner, the prisoner, the police officer who you were convicted of killing, is listening, what do you have to say to her?
That the struggle for justice and freedom did not end on December 9th, 1981. It began then. And she should join us, because our movement is growing.
Mumia, I want to thank you for being with us. Mumia Abu Jamal just cut off at SCI Mahanoy in Pennsylvania, the prison where he now resides. He was on death row in Pennsylvania for 29 years, now is in prison for life. Award-winning journalist, chronicles the human condition. When we come back, we're joined by...
All right. Let me stop my screen share there, family. So as always, very poignant, very much on point. All right. And some of the things that were being discussed 13 years ago by our dear brother, Baba Mumia Abu Jamal, is definitely showing face and coming to pass present day. All right. So let us continue to fight for the freedom, justice, and liberation of our people, of all people, and of our political prisoners who have sacrificed their very lives in order to see us free. All right. With that being said, let me come to any questions or comments. Ethereal journalist, what say you?
One point I like he made, and I always say about it too, and I was really glad he said that this is one of the biggest open prison societies in the world. You know, I didn't know if y'all peeped that.
Oh yeah, that was actually the title of the clip. The title of the clip: The United States is Mumia Abu-Jamal, quote unquote, the United States is fast becoming one of the biggest open air prisons on earth.
Open air prison. That's it. Yep. Exactly. And that's what I said, you know, and I've said it and we've said it before in different previous episodes where, you know, you're talking about 18,000 police districts, or I call it runaway slave patrols, that were fashioned after, you know, the plantation security forces that were trying to, you know, stop runaway slaves by having their own internal plantation police force. It has just expanded to 18,000 more. So, I mean, I agree with him 100%. This is a very big open air prison society and prison planet in most places, because you still got slavery popping off in places like in Africa and other places around the world where people are not free. They're just, they're not locked up behind bars. And that's the same thing as all these black people and minority people and other people that are in these hoods that are pretty much locked up in their own neighborhoods and can't go anywhere except for, you know, getting harassed if they go past a certain boundary or enter into a certain zone or area of the city or suburbs where they're not supposed to be there, supposedly so-called camp. You shouldn't be here in this neighborhood. You don't belong here. We never seen you before. So it's just sad that they were telling the truth about this. This is one of the biggest open air prison systems in the world. 18,000 slave patrol fashioned after that whole situation. So I'm glad he said that. I thought I was the only one that may have thought like that, but I'm glad he brought that in this video. And this video is 13 years old or something like that?
Yes, sir.
See, you know, and I didn't even know he said that, because that was the first time I ever heard somebody else say that. So I'm appreciative of his analysis and understanding that this is one of the biggest open air prison systems in the world. I yield.
Yeah, well, most folk that are involved in prison and be it the prison industrialized complex kinds of campaigns, anti-campaigns, you know, for at least like 30 years, that has been said. That the U.S. with the data to back it up compared to other countries. So again, you know, from a social justice standpoint, that's been a point that has been made for at least 30 years, and it's part of the teachings for those who do get involved in you know, that area of social justice, meaning prison reform and so forth. But I want to share with our family, and you're hearing the first here on Ethereal. I got a chance to talk with Brother Charles Barron a little while ago. And with the things that we've talked about thus far, again, I'm always asking, what are we talking about doing that is going to either take us out of the matrix or out of the system to the degree that we're in? And or, you know, be able to move forward in such a way that we're able to obtain more of our own independence, etc. So with that said, a few months ago, myself, Pan Africa, Brother Shamari, a few others were fortunate enough to not only go up to New York to visit and do a tour with the Barons, who, for those who do not know who they are, if you Google it, you will certainly find out. But they were both elected officials, at one point city council, at another point assemblyman. So the point that I'm making is, we talked earlier about how these politricksters are doing what they do. Well, we brought someone to Philly and have had on some of our other podcast conversations, someone who literally played the game, but in doing so created their own capability within the game, within the structure, and then accomplished a lot. And so we saw that also being at least attempted as far back as Fannie Lou Hamer and a few others. That was able to work within the system, but yet make it very clear that they were focused on making certain that they were helping our people. So my point is, from the 1960s up to now, we've kind of lost that ambitiousness or that wanting to do. But anyway, in talking with Brother Charles Bannon earlier, we now are proceeding with what we call Black Poli-Sci 101. And with that, next year is the 55th year commemoration of the National Black Political Convention, where 10,000 folks went to Gary, Indiana. Now, from that is where Black elected officials began to be elected all over the country from that 1972 initial convention. Now, fortunately, things fell apart, but we've learned a lot. So we must continue to at least attempt to do something where we put our own people in position, not because we believe in the system like that, but because we need to be in position to be able to do certain things that's going to take us to our own governance and so forth. Anyway, Charles Bannon has agreed to do sessions for those who are interested. And the email will go out tomorrow for those who are interested in running for office in the future. Also for students who are either in political science now and or planning to go into it. And also those who are just interested in looking at politics from a different angle. So our first sessions have been planned. They will be virtual, and we invite you all to put it on your calendar. You'll be able to get more information starting tomorrow, but starting on Friday, May the 15th at 7 o'clock. Again, from 6:30 to 8:30. Let me make sure that's the correct. 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Charles Bannon will be giving us information on how to beat the machine. How to be within a party that exists, but still bring out what we need. And believe me, we went up to New York to see what they were able to accomplish. And we'll go into that at another time. But again, mark your calendar. Again, we're looking at, hold on, let me pull it back up. Give me a moment. Okay, so we're looking at Friday. Friday, May the 15th. At 7 o'clock. And then that's part one. And then part two is May the 20th. Let me make sure. I'm sorry. May the 18th. Okay. So May the 11th and May the 18th, both at 7 o'clock virtually. And again, for those who are interested in running, doesn't matter what city you're in, although we're focusing right now on Philly. And again, it's a protracted struggle. We're looking to prepare folks to run for political offices, city council, assembly, whatever. But with that said, come next year for the 55th year anniversary of the National Black Political Convention, we're looking to, again, create our own national Black political agenda. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this information, family, is this. Other groups of people have their own land. They got their own city government and are not under the jurisdiction of the U.S., even though they're in this land. So if we can continue to talk about our political prisoners, which we will, talk about the injustice of people being incarcerated and it's proved that they're innocent. What are we talking about doing to help lessen some of that? For some of us, the answer is to have our own, where we're not in this system to the degree that we presently are. So again, Poli-Sci 101 is coming for those who want to run for political office with a national Black political agenda. So stay tuned. We will be telling you more later on this week. Okay, we're not hearing anybody.
Oh, my apologies. All right. Thank you for that. This is Sister Empress, and for that wonderful information. All right. So For those who want to get further information on that, you can email nationalmwm@aol.com. Again, that's nationalmwm@aol.com. You can also text 267-636-3802. That number again is 267-636-3802. All right. And welcome aboard the Ethereal. Thanks for joining us this evening, Brother Knowledge Born Allah.
Peace and blessings. Black Power, can y'all hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We hear you loud and clear. You hear you loud and clear.
Somehow I always find some kind of way to get in just in time to have to try to follow up from either Doc Empress or Mighty L Pollinator, one way or the other. I was like, all right, yeah, I got here. They looking at a clip. All right, I got time. It was like, wow. I was wrong, ladies and gentlemen. But it's been a minute. I've been working. I've been recording. I've been on the grind overtime. I don't even know what the difference between the day and the night, right? And, our ancestors talked about working from can't see day to can't see night. Yeah. Oh yeah. So I was speaking a little working-ese, you know what I mean? So
yes, sir.
So I'm glad to be here today. This is episode 46, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I do my little mathematics?
Oh yeah, please. Please do.
Speak a little Mathanese real quick. 46 is synonymous from the cellular level, from the DNA level of the amount of chromosomes you need in order to produce life optimally. So 4 and 6 represent mother and father, created creatures, right? So those 23 chromosomes that you get from your mother and those 23 chromosomes that you get of your father become the subtotal of your physical structure, your God being, your God body, right? And if you have one less chromosome, this is how you come on the spectrum with some sort of physical malady or deformity. So look at the perfection in regards to 46. 46 also represents strength. 46 also represents a fortress. You understand what I'm saying? I'm gonna mess with Almighty L real quick. 46 in the Hebrew is Abiyir. So Ab like heart, Ab like father, like so that mother, father, family sort of foundation. And what foundation, do you stand on in that regard? So you got 46, and the 46th Psalm speaks about strength and refuge, right? Psalms 46:1 says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. A very present help in trouble. So for that very present help to be present, that means you're in trouble. You understand what I'm saying? Otherwise, you got it on your own, right? But God is our refuge, mother, and strength. Father, God is our refuge. So when you're seeking to seek refuge, you have to be fortified in the fortress. Where's the fortress? Her womb. Her womb is the fortress. That's the only place where you can seek refuge. So when you dishonor mother, you dishonor womb. There's no womb reverence. You definitely in trouble, right? And then our strength. So if you find yourself in a position where you're in trouble, you got the fight or the flight response, right? That takes strength. It takes strength to either fight or flee. So where you fleeing to? Back to home. Where's home? Home is the womb. You understand what I'm saying? And think about in this dichotomy in regards to the womb space of your mind. Peace is the absence of confusion. So either you're talking about the womb of the mind, the womb of the earth, the womb of the universe, the womb of the ground, from the dust of the ground. You have come in from the dust of the ground, you shall return, right? So how are you fortifying yourself in spirit and truth in this hour of trouble? And if you on the right side of it, you ain't in trouble. You like, oh, this is good trouble. But if you're dismayed by what you're seeing and you're in a state of fear, false expectations appearing real, then you'll be thinking about this is some troublesome times or tumultuous times. You've been in the womb. At any point in that womb, your life could have expired based off of the nurture or the non-nurture of mother and father and the environment that they're in. You understand? Like, so say you got 45 and a half chromosomes. You're going to have some deformity. It has to be the exact number that they give them. You have to receive them. So your mother's giving you of herself, the best of herself in these 23 chromosomes, and so is father. And if you don't receive them, you're going to be in trouble. You understand what I'm saying? Or if you violate or you transgress after you've been given this divine instruction that we call DNA, you're in trouble. And nobody can help you but yourself. And then in that space of present trouble, God intervenes. But God helped those who do what? Help themselves. So this 46 is a reminder of the covenant that you have with the Most High Creator Creatress. You understand what I'm saying? As long as you're dutiful. So Isaiah 46, God covers carrying his people from the womb to old age. So that's whatever that age is. You understand what I'm saying? You know, back in the day, age ain't nothing but a number, right? But something about life and how this life is intended to be, where these synapses come together, you know, for different people in different times. But 46 becomes something different. If this is the fortress, are you fortified in what you receive from birth from your mother and your father? And are you about your mother and father's work? I heard y'all talking about our brother Mumia, and I heard y'all talking about the open air prison, right? The body that you exist in is a prison for your spirit, but it's also a prison house for the divine essence that animates it. You understand what I'm saying? So if you look at it like a prison, you're going to be in the cell. You understand what I'm saying? So life is there and contained within the cell, the smallest living unit of matter. Right? So we're talking about it from that perspective to the ultimate cage and prison of physical, emotional, and spiritual limitation we put on ourselves, thereby putting those same limitations on God. You understand what I'm saying? And wonder why we in trouble. So when we don't honor her, when we don't honor her womb, when she gives us guidance, when she gives us nurture, and then she got to be nature and come down on us, we act all crazy about that. Like, that's not what our hand called for. You understand what I'm saying? Like, we really want to assume this masculine role and deny the feminine. How the hell do you become masculine in the first place? How the hell do you become man? How the hell do you become father? How the hell do you become child without womb? So the longer we deny this space that gave us refuge and our ability to grow strong, because this is where our strength came from, and our structure. 80%, 87% of our structure comes from what she gives us. Understand what I'm saying? Physically. And you still ain't got no reverence. Like, it's crazy, but it's right on time. So I just want to read real quick, since y'all were talking about the 60s and poli-sci. You know, the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was a politically based Black organization from its womb inception, from the mind, right? So you might hear about the Green Party, you might hear about some of these other parties. When you look at a party, when you look at the People's Communist Party, that's political in its origin. So what were some of the political statements? I'll read number 4 and number 6 because we're here. We want decent housing fit for the shelter of human beings. What did I just say about refuge? We believe that if the white landlords will not give us decent housing to our Black community, then the housing and the land should be made into cooperatives so that our community, with government aid can build and make decent housing for its people. The womb, that first house, right? Now, point number 6, we want all Black men to be exempt from military service. That's strength. So if you're saying you know you can't go to war, you ain't taking our children, our young people, our strength and sending them off to war. Hell no, we won't go. You understand what I'm saying? So this is a stance. This is a declaration. So when they looked at Muhammad Ali and they called him a draft dodger, when they called his name to stand up, when they said Cassius Clay, they wouldn't call him by his name.
Right.
He stood up on strength and said, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm a conscientious objector. It's written into their military regulation that if you're a conscientious objector, you're not going.
Right.
There's a consequence that comes along with standing up. What did they do? They sent them to the prison house. So etherically, when we look at these things in regards to how we name and claim in these regards, we see that they have synchronicity, and it's our set ability to look etherically and report on this journey and our journeymen and women to give them, proper instructions for their navigation, for their circumambulation in this third dimension reality, right? So from an etherical perspective, this is right and exact. And the reason why we're speaking about these things, because they're already written for a time. Psalms 46:10, and I'll end with this. It says, be still and know that I am God. So in the places where we are making things happen, sometimes we just got to be still. Like you did everything that you could possibly do. You did every possible thing. Now you have to be still. You understand what I'm saying? Same thing that Christ said to the waters. He said, peace be still, and the waters were still. So the tumultuous aspects of your mind, you could be creating hell in your mind, thinking like, did I do this? Did I do this? We'd be overthinking, check it back. And once you do, let it be written, so shall it be done. Right? So it was written in your genetic coding, in your DNA, in your spiritual DNA, in your physical DNA, what was to be done. So it was written and it was sealed up. It said the Most High said, I knew you before you were in the wombs of your mother. What he said? Before you was in the wombs of your mother.
And before the foundations of the world.
Right. And I sealed this word up in your inward parts. You understand? So when we talk about universal law and principle, what the other folks call law, statutes, or commandments, or what they call Sharia, whatever the case may be, it's your genetic coding that you receive from mother, father, creator, creatures, divine together. That's what makes you family. And that's what binds you to your family. So that's your family, and then that's your ancestral family, and then that's your ethereal family. All of that's all bound together. So if you dishonor mother or father, or you dishonor mother and father, or you dishonor it all together, this is the only way that you can disconnect yourself from those wounds that bore you. Understand what I'm saying? And now you out here ailing and you in trouble. And you thinking that you have no refuge. And you thinking that you have no strength. So back to that number, 46, just wanted to share that as I came in regards to, hearing what the bill was and where the direction was, because we have to be fortified to be able to stand strong on truth and provide the refuge for those who continue on this journey of Ethereal. And I yield with that.
Man, break down the science of thank you for breaking down the science of the ethereal, brother KBA. He blew it up on that one, baby, boy. And just to add to what you said,
all that stuff about following this person, that person. Every time he come on, every time he say that, he be dropping nuclear bombs on the podcast.
That's it. You hold your own very, very well. And that 46 breakdown was beautiful. And I'm gonna add to it. 4 + 6 = what?
10.
And
1 + 0 = what?
It's the one.
We won. And even in the 10, that was given to the original Shemitic Hebrew Ivory people of the real book of the scrolls. One of the commandments was honor what? Your mother and your what? Father. And they wasn't talking about, remember, she had just given him the 10, and it looked like breast. It looked like people's tombstones. The breasted one, El Shaddai, the breast. Do you see a dude with breasts running around here milking, giving milk to children? No. She gave those commandments and said, honor your mother, because she was talking about her. Because they didn't know nothing about that, but prior to that commandment given. So where did they get that from? Her. Meaning honor me first in the as above realm, and then honor your physical mother in the so below realm, period. And these dummies still didn't catch that it was the spirit of her, the womb that covers from one angle, 1 inch, and one centimeter of the universe to the next. That's the womb. We in the womb right now.
That's right.
That's why she told David, when he said, I can't go anywhere in the universe and escape you, spirit, because you're omnipresent, because you're the mother. We're in your womb. We still right here, like that picture right there. Just like the picture with the world. That's what people don't get. So I appreciate you breaking all that good stuff down and bringing our beautiful Queen Mother of the Universe, the divine feminine, the number one highest, most high, the highest into the mix, man. I appreciate that.
All right. So, you know what I'm saying? Welcome aboard. You know what I mean? Brother Knowledge Born Out Loud, dropping them bombs right off the gate. You know what I'm saying? We appreciate that.
If Dr. ain't say nothing, if she ain't laugh or come off mute, I ain't doing a good enough job. Okay, so.
Oh no, not at all. It's just
there she go. That's the only reason why I speak. You understand what I'm saying? If I don't hear her voice, I'm like, all right, I ain't do I'm happy.
No, these days I'm like you, my brother. I am not only multitasking, I'm like poly multitasking at this point, with this Ubuntu and other things that we have, in the makings. But I do want to add this, and again, as the brothers just mentioned, I always, as usual, see, you were saving up stuff. That's what it was. That's why we didn't hear from you last week, because you were saving up some stuff, getting ready. But always, some wonderful and powerful information. I want to connect that to some other things, like right now, for example, because folks are getting ready for, what some are calling Mother's Day. And so, of course, for a while, we've been bringing forward what we call raising up the original mother, the primordial mother. And so with that, on Saturday, I think Brother Moon might have mentioned it briefly, but I'm going to reiterate it. And again, you'll be getting the flyer later on tonight, actually. But it's just going to be a community briefing and a media briefing to launch the national campaign for the elimination of all forms of violence and abuse of our women and girls. And for right now, of course, we're going to be focusing on missing, kidnapped, etc. Now, what makes this campaign a little different, and again, every year for 10 years, we've done something the day before Mother's Day. So again, this Saturday, we will be presenting an action plan. And what makes this so incredible and dynamic is because it really connects us in different ways, but it'll enable us to advance in many ways. For example, one of the strategies you'll hear us present on Saturday is we're building a new cadre. Now, by the way, let me just go back for a moment. Saturday, we introduced the concept, and the concept is 18 days of awareness and action, starting on the 2nd, which of course was Queen Mother Moore's Ancestral Day, and also Dr. Imari Obadele's Born Day. Both days, May 2nd, different years, of course. So we took that synergy, that energy, and combined it. Because again, a lot of people now talking about repair and reparations and those kinds of things. Well, if you're not focusing to some degree on some of their work, then I would just say there's some fraudulent stuff going on. Anyway, so what we did, we kicked off Saturday with 18 days of awareness and action. So every day we had an assignment. And I gave to you what some of the upcoming things are. Saturday, we've been doing stuff every day. We got, of course, the upcoming Poli-Sci 101, Black Poli-Sci 101 sessions with the Barons. And again, the focus is from the May the 2nd.
Up, you're on mute. You're on mute. You gotta come off mute.
Okay, sorry, I hit the wrong thing. I hit something there. So again, from May 2nd to May 19th. And of course, again, we said it was from St. Queen, Mother Moore, to our Black Shining Prince, Brother Malcolm. And encompass the work, some of the work that they had done, showed us, and then bringing it forward. So with that said, we're going up to New York, of course, for the annual pilgrimage on the 19th. But leading up to that is several things. So I'm going to wrap this up real quick and just give you a general idea. And then when we before we close out, I'll give you some of the days, some of the things that'll be happening during the next 16 or so days. But note. So one of the connections is in dealing with the issue of our women and girls, kidnapping, etc. We've built a cadre, or building a cadre that we call the BBBCO. Now that should resonate with some. BBBCO. So what it represents is, and again, this is one of our new membership components, the Black beautician, braiders, barbers, cosmetologists, hence BBBCO. So each time we kind of say that, it should resonate, or there's an energy there. For those who are familiar with Stephen Biko, then of course you know what I'm referring to. But what we figured is to connect to something that is in all of our communities nationwide, independent, and kind of a clearinghouse, or a place that folks go to have conversation, transmute information, etc. So now to create a membership that is of Black, again, beauticians, barbers, braiders, cosmetologists, that now enables us to also put information in our communities. So when it comes now to the issue of Black women and girls missing, we will now have designated locations where those pictures, information, etc., can be placed. Because our research indicates that every household, for the most part, is going to one of those people at least twice a month. The beautician, the barber, the braider, and or the cosmetologist. Get their nails or their hair or whatever. Okay, so rather than depending on the system to make sure that the information about our women and girls is put out there, because we know it is not, we have figured out how to make sure we matriculate it and generate it in our communities ourselves. And so now to have flyers and other kind of information in our community at our businesses, this will enable us, we feel, to be able to have a better grip on finding and preventing what is now presently going on. Because not only are we talking about the pictures, we're talking about prevention stuff as well. Brochures or leaflets or whatever that can be left in these facilities. So again, I just want to give you a general idea as to what May is also bringing, other than, the stuff that they've been talking about for May Day. We have our own way of doing things and bringing forward the kinds of things that we want, whatever time it is. I yield on that.
If I could follow up real quick, I know you're ready to go, Captain Case. I know you're ready to go. I didn't speak to Charles Barron, and you can't make this up in regards to synchronicity. Charles means man or free man. Barron means son of strength. Free man. What does free man mean in that space of refuge? you're not troubled in your mind. You're not troubled in any of your actions. You're thinking from a place that is clean, right? So that promise of God to be ever present in signs of times of trouble, you have a free man who's a son of strength, meaning can't nobody come to him and push him any kind of way or dissuade him away from what he's standing on. So think of that man and what this man is offering, our future generations in regards to poli-sci that, Queen Mother Doc Empress was just speaking about, setting aside the time for these aspects to come into existence to train up our future generations and educate them in the way as they should go and as they should grow, right? So if you're looking at Black poli-sci, it's like, oh yeah, whatever. No, you can't tell me and talk about nation building on any level from a physical structure or a governance without political science. So you may have these aspects in regards to business, all of those things. All these things deal with laws, statutes, commandments, ordinances, all of those things. Who do you think make those? Lawmakers. You understand what I'm saying? So in the space of your governance, but who funds them? The businesses, right? So what sort of commercial venues that you're looking to exist within, there has to be a framework in regards to design. If the space is not structurally sound, the building is going to come down from either the bottom up or the top down. It's going to collapse. So when you're dealing with this free man who's a son of strength, he's empowering you to be free and to be in control of your own destiny via your own hands. He's enabling you with those chromosomes that his mother and his father gave him to be free and to name him a free man. Not he can't be given freedom. He was born with it. You understand what I'm saying? And then you're talking about a son of strength to represent a strong family that is there to empower the future next generation. So I just think that was critical and key and right in time, Doc Empress, to reiterate again so I could say, oh yeah, I left it off my list. I want to go back and speak to that in regards to what this is and what this offering is and what this allows our future generations to be able to do in all these arenas. So I'm glad and thankful that y'all are dealing with that in that aspect. And this other aspect I deal with very closely in regards to dealing with people who are missing, right? And what that means, going forward in regards to what that is. We need some free men, who sons of strength to join that plight as well. You understand what I'm saying? Because nothing says I love you, and when you in a sign of trouble, that ever present promise from God to be present in troubling times to cease the wicked from existence and set that precedence to let you know that if you take any of our children, any of our people, somebody coming looking for you, and they're gonna leave you wherever they found you. You understand what I'm saying? So that precedent should be set again and be reiterated because we don't deal with that very well. The hell, the stress, and the strain that it puts on the family and the mind, it no longer you don't no longer have to deal with that stress and strain because as these things pop up and they know that there's some eradication going on, some adjudication going on, they have to understand that okay, it's costly to have yourself out here being employed by this $1 trillion industry of trafficking, organ harvesting, and some of these other things that are happening. So I wanted to add that addition in our year.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Brother KBA is bringing it like he can. Appreciate that love, man.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Dropping gems. So with that being said, let me go ahead and let's get into our next clip, family. Let's get into our next clip. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and let's see what's going on. We're going to jump out a little bit internationally and see what's going on across the pond, as they say. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And I have a clip. I'm going to show this article, and then we're going to go to the clip based on the article information. Just get a quick sound bite. All right, let me share my screen here. And this is coming from The Guardian. All right, it should be popping up shortly. There we go. All right. So let me see here. We have, let me drop this down. All right. Modern slavery at record levels in the UK and expected to worsen, reports warn. Government's anti-slavery commissioner says traffickers are exploiting a growing pipeline of vulnerability. Okay, now this was Monday the 4th. This article was released. The number of referrals has almost doubled in the last 5 years, from 12,691 in 2021 to 23,411 in 2025, the highest number ever. All right. Slavery in the UK is at a record level and expected to worsen over the next decade. The government independent anti-slavery committee has warned. Okay. In her report published on Tuesday, Eleanor Lyons said that this increase was not only due to better detection of slavery, but also to worsening conditions in the UK and across the world. Poverty, global instability, conflict, global displacement of people, and the breakdown of safe migration routes are creating a growing pipeline of vulnerability that traffickers are quick to exploit, said the report, anticipating exploitation of futures-based analysis. Okay. All right. So let me go ahead and stop my screen share there. And let me jump into that brief clip. All right. And let me share my screen there. Give me 1 second. And let me share the screen on that. Okay, here we go.
Our next story is from the UK. Two recently published reports have thrown light on a rather uncomfortable reality in Britain. As per the Anticipating Exploitation report released by the UK's Independent Anti-Slavery Commissioner, slavery in the UK is at record levels and is expected to worsen over the next decade. The report basically put together research compiled by more than 50 different experts across law enforcement, government, civil society, and the charity sectors. Let's just take a closer look at the numbers. According to the report, over 23,400 potential victims of slavery were referred to the UK's National Referral Mechanism in the year 2025. And this is the highest ever number recorded. The numbers have seen a 25% increase as compared to 2024. The victims have nearly doubled in the last 5 years, considering that 12,691 cases were reported in 2021. And what about the nationalities of the victims? What's known about that? Reportedly, close to 20% were from the UK. Eritrean nationals were the second largest group, accounting for 13% of the victims, 13%, followed by Vietnamese nationals. The report held three key factors responsible: rising living costs, debt, and insecure work. It attributed an increase in numbers to not just better detection of slavery, but also worsening conditions in the UK and around the world. That's not all. The report also flagged increased use of digital labor in scam compounds. coercive labor in areas like agriculture and mining, an increase in reproductive slavery like enforced egg harvesting, and surrogacy. In the wake of this, UK's anti-slavery commissioner urged the government to improve victim care and launch a national campaign for reporting exploitation. That's not all. Another report released by European Council's group of experts on action against trafficking in human beings also highlighted a steep rise in potential trafficking victims in the UK. It observed that more safeguards were required to prevent trafficking of people from vulnerable groups, including children, migrants, asylum seekers, and homeless people. In response, the UK Home Office termed slavery as a global scourge that exploits people for profit. It reiterated its commitment to improve the process of identifying victims, ensuring swift justice for them, and providing them with support to rebuild their lives.
All right. Let me stop my screen share there. Okay. So when we're talking about slavery, we're not just talking about the past. We're talking about things that are happening in modern day, right? In today's times. These forms of human exploitation are not only present, but increasing, family, exponentially. Okay. So as the times worsen, as political and social unrest, wars, displacement, rising prices, job instabilities, as these things increase, so does the potential and the numbers reportedly of human trafficking and slavery, family, right here, right now, today. Okay. So with that, let me come to another clip. Now this is just while we're on the UK, let's just drop a little bit of history. This is a short clip on blacks in the UK. All right. So let me go here and let me share my screen. Give me 1 second. Let me share my screen. Here we go. Okay. There it is. All right. That should be popping up shortly. Okay. That should be up. All right. Let me let this rock.
Post-war era begging black families to come and save its economy, then spent the next 70 years trying to pretend they were never invited. On June 22, 1948, the HMT Empire Windrush docked at Tilbury, carrying over 1,000 passengers. Among them were 492 Caribbean men, women, and children. They weren't immigrants in the way we use the word today. They were British subjects. Under the British Nationality Act of 1948, they had full citizenship and the legal right to settle in what they were told was the mother country. Britain's economy was in ruins after World War II. They needed nurses for the new National Health Service, drivers for the railways, and laborers to rebuild London. The unfiltered truth is that Britain actively recruited these people. They sent advertisements to Jamaica, Barbados, and Trinidad, but that belief was shattered the moment they stepped onto the pier. The welcome was a cold slap of no blacks, no Irish, no dog signs on apartment windows. Even as they filled the vacancies no white worker would take, working the brutal night shifts in the NHS and the London Underground, the government was already panicking about their presence. By 1962, the door was being slammed shut. Legislation like the Commonwealth Immigrants Act began stripping away the rights promised in 1948. They tried to regulate the blackness out of British law. The Windrush generation built modern Britain. They are the reason the NHS survived its first decade. People like Sam King, a Jamaican RAF veteran, went from the Windrush to becoming the first black mayor of Southwark. They created the culture, the music, and the very identity of 21st century Britain. But in 2018, the betrayal went nuclear. Under the hostile environment policy, the Home Office began targeting these elderly citizens. People who had lived, worked, owned, and paid taxes in the UK for 60 years were suddenly told they were illegal, because the government had destroyed the very arrival landing cards that proved their status. They were denied cancer treatment, lost their jobs, were thrown into detention centers, and in many cases deported to countries they hadn't seen since they were children. I want to hear from you in the comments. When a nation uses the labor of a people to rebuild its ruins, then discards them when they get old. Why is that a policy error, or is it the natural conclusion of an empire? Comment Windrush.
All right, let me stop the screen share there, family. All right, and that sounds oddly familiar. Okay, we just had a story at the top of the hour about the gutting of the voter registration acts, right? And the legislation that's being demolished here in the U.S. You know, so it looks like some of the same plays and playbooks are being used internationally, family. All right, so again, you know, why it's important that, you know, political science is known, learned, and understood, and so forth, right? And also that we understand aspects of history, you know, because it is secular. You know, things are in common occurrence and reoccurrence about every 25 to 30 years, family. And for those who are aware, astute, and paying attention to that, they can quote unquote predict what will become of the future. All right, based on these historic patterns, based on these secular type of events. All right, family. So you want to stay ready so we don't have to get ready. All right. So that's just a quick little brief. I'm going to play one more clip on modern day slavery. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'll play an excerpt from it. And then, you know, we're going to come back to the Ethereal journalists to put some of this information into further context. All right, give me 1 second, family. Let me share my screen one more again. All right, here we go. Pop that. There it is. Okay. All right, let me take this back.
طبعا بتصل بيك مشان الشغاله اللي محطوط على الانترنت عندك.
للامانه الشهاده لله ما اشوفها بيه زينه ولو تقعدها الساعه 5 الفجر ما تكشف نفسها وزينه.
فينا نشوفها؟
In the Gulf, women employed as domestic workers are being sold online.
Let me pause. Let me take that back. Let me read the caption real quick, family, just so you know, those who, you know, aren't seeing it, they can hear the translation. All right, it comes on. Trust me, she's very nice. You can wake her up at 5 a.m. She won't complain. And the buyers are asking, can we see her? Now, the caption for this video is maids for sale. Silicon Valley's online slave market, family. Let's let it roll.
In the Gulf, women employed as domestic workers are being sold online via apps approved and provided by Google and Apple. It's been called an online slave market. Our BBC News Arabic team posed as a husband and wife looking to buy a domestic worker in Kuwait.
Ready?
An app called For Sale is used to buy and sell domestic workers alongside cars and TVs. The BBC.
I gotta pause that real quick, family. My apologies. These workers are being sold alongside cars and TVs.
BBC team spoke to 57 users of For Sale who were selling their domestic workers online for thousands of pounds. Most women had no knowledge they were being advertised online and then sold.
عندها فكرة إن هي حتنتقل على مكان تاني أو ما عندها مانع بالموضوع؟ ما قلت لها؟
ما عندها مشكلة. واحدة جاية تشتغل.
App users were violating.
What they were saying is the woman aware that she's going to be transported to a different place? They're saying, you know, she doesn't mind, she doesn't care. She's here to work.
National and international law on modern slavery, human trafficking, and forced labor by selling these women. They were also denying domestic workers their basic human rights.
Does she take holiday? No. We Kuwaits don't let them to be honest.
اوكي.
We're criminals.
بالنسبه للموبايل وهيك.
What about the mobile phone? No. Forget about mobile phones. Okay, they don't have access to that either. These are uneducated people.
يعني ما بدها تتكلم مع اهلها مثلا، اذا بتتكلم مع اهلها او كذا.
She speaks to her family. We give her a chance once a month.
والقانون ايش بقول طيب؟
القانون
What does the law say? The law.
احنا ما نمشي على
We don't follow the law.
It's not the only app being used to sell women online. The BBC found hundreds of domestic workers for sale on Saudi app Haraj and Facebook-owned Instagram.
كيف حالك اخي؟ ان شاء الله طيب.
The undercover team arranged to meet with some of the sellers in person.
ان شاء الله بخير. والله بخير. الله يسلمك.
One of them, who told us he was a policeman, urged our team to break the law by confiscating the domestic worker's passport and denying her any time off.
شو بسوي بالمرور؟ شرطة والنعم.
جواز ما تعطي انت كفيل. ليش تعطيني جواز؟ ما يصير.
والله ما بعرف، انا مستغرب، انا بالنسبه لي مستغرب يعني هيك.
جواز تخش عندك تجوري.
اوكي.
حق قضاء، حق توظيف، حق كل شيء.
هيدا الحط الاعلان من ساعه.
A new ad appears on For Sale. An African domestic worker for $3,800.
الو مرحبا. كيفك؟ عم بتصل فيك بخصوص العامله الافريقيه على فور سيل.
انا شرنس وبنت حلال وشوشه، ما تطلب شيء وآدمية.
في مجال شوفها اتعرف عليه انا وزوجي هون، هو هلا حدي عم نتصل فيك.
حياكم الله.
شكرا.
All right, so the undercover couple, they are negotiating, going and seeing and possibly purchasing this girl for, domestic work, quote unquote.
The undercover team get ready to meet the seller.
First exit.
Nothing could prepare them for what happens next.
انت وجه الاسئله انا عسلت.
لا انا بدي اتعرف عليها. الو.
الله يسلمك. الله يسلمك.
تمام، وانت؟ هاي.
والله العظيم ما كانت تزعل.
Oh, there she is. I swear she's good natured.
شوفي هذا بابا هذا ماما.
Look, this is Daddy and Mommy. She's introducing, the undercover couple who came in as, her new mother and father.
ايه اسمها عربي لانها مسلمه.
من غانا ولا من
انا انسى من كذا ما غانا.
The ex is she's from Ghana. She says, I'm not sure. There's so many of them. Ghana, Guinea, something like that.
من وين؟ غينيا. اوكي.
كل الناس تبي الخدم. بس قدر امكاننا بلها بيت خفيف.
قد ايه عمرك؟
شوفي ماما، هذه ماما، هذا بابا.
قد ايه عمرك؟
اقول لكم الصدق، اترك الاوراق، اقول لكم الصدق يعني عشان راعي السفاش.
So this young girl is 16 years old.
We're shocked to find this woman offering to sell us a child. The young girl seems withdrawn and confused.
كلمة ويا ماما.
Je vais te parler en français. T'as quel âge? Combien? 16 ans.
All right, I'm going to stop the screen share there, family. All right, you all can tap in and check this video out further if you would like. This is Made for Sale, Silicon Valley's online slave market from BBC News. Let me stop the screen share there. Okay, now this is what's going on. This is what's going on present day, family. All right, with that being said, let me come to Ethereal journalist for any additional comments. Any additional comments? What say you, journalists?
Well, I'll jump in. So, this is something that MWM has been talking about for quite a while, at least 2 decades. And particularly here in the U.S., but also as it has pertained throughout the diaspora. We've mentioned before that at a session we were at in New York at the United Nations, we literally saw for ourselves. It wasn't this particular thing of trafficking, but we certainly saw the plan being put in place to be able to vaccinate young girls starting at 12 up. And it was geared primarily to the females. And so under the guise of preventing ovarian cancer. And we saw the way that this is being designed, it's going to really have a major impact on various groups throughout the diaspora, because they're going to believe what they're being told in terms of the kind of help that these various companies or whatever is going to give them in terms of books or other kinds of resources. So we know that this stuff is going on. And I think Brother Knowledge had mentioned earlier, not tonight, but in one of our other conversations, about how some of this stuff, family members are complicit, are involved. And we know that. And so, it might be more obvious seeing it in another country, but we notice some of that's happening right here in the U.S. as well. The problem, at least for here, and the problem for there too, is that most folk don't care. They don't care. And as a result, the enemy takes full advantage of that. And so for us here, it is more than obvious that unless it happens to someone directly, they're not going to get involved. They're not going to do anything. And this system sees that. So now we're looking at a worldwide situation. And, while on one hand, I'm definitely not just sympathetic, but I'm definitely to some degree involved in some of the things that's going on in the diaspora. But what I now know is I have to put more time and energy into right here, right now, because most folk in the U.S. really don't care that this is going on. And lastly, that's going to change to some degree, and not because people really care. What's going to happen is this present administration has forced people to find new ways to make money, to find new, shall we say, issues to get funded. And so after this administration is over, they're going to have to make up for lost time. And so our women and girls are going to be one of the new pimps, or one of the new, things that's going to be pimped. And it's going to be dealing with violence and abuse. And you're going to see funding become more available, because right now it isn't. It really isn't. Guns and gangs and drugs, there's still funding for, and will be more in the next administration. But what's also going to be introduced is there needs to be funding now for this issue of Black women and girls. And again, not because those people really care. They see where they can use it as a cash cow. It'll be a hot topic to be able to introduce into the political arena, because it's not there now. So they got to come with something that is going to be a little more appealing. And that's what it's going to be. That's one of the things it's going to be. Because again, they know that most of our people are not politically astute, at least not to the degree where they look at this stuff and go, yo, wait a minute, nah, back up. This is a game and we're not playing it that way. And so they will have people that look like us jump out there and act like they really care about what's going on with our women and girls. And again, some of that has come about because of grassroots voices that the elite now will jump in and act like they really care, when in fact it's going to be connected to funds. I yield.
All right. Thank you for that addition, Sister Empress. Let me come over to Brother Pollinator. Anything to add on this information that we were just seeing?
Well, I mean, y'all speaking it all into existence, man. What we already know, and what we know has already been around for many, many moons, is just coming out of the woodwork now, because everything is being exposed in this year of the unveiling of the truth. This is what the year of Revelation was all about. People are going to start hearing some of the things that they thought was conspiracies, but now, like I always say, all conspiracies are true until proven otherwise. That's how we got to look at it now, because they've hidden so many things from us, from just how the government operates, just how societies in general operate, including many of foreign governments that have been doing these type of things to their own people as well. It's about harvesting energy at this point. It's about harvesting humans. Going back to the movie Coma, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Coma back in, I think that came out in like the 70s or something like that.
Yeah.
But the movie Coma was showing you that we have to start finding body parts for these older people that are rich, that need these like salvage yard parts, like this, like people are some kind of like junkyard for parts. And they were doing that. And that movie was telling you this is what they're doing really now as a measure of predictive programming that we know Hollywood is always engaged in. They try to give you the truth, but they do it in an entertaining way and call it fiction. But in Philly, I can remember how many young black men were being shot in the head. And first thing they would ask the families would be can we get their organs? And this is one of the things that they were trying to make, in the streets. And it's was probably just in Philly. This is probably all over the United States. Shoot them in the head, and we can harvest everything from the neck on down. Black people have always been utilized as body parts, as livestock, as anything and everything to harvest and harness our energy and to eat us, because some of them believe that eating us gave them magical powers, because they know we come from the ethers. They know we come from the cosmos. So all these things that's happening to our carbonated and melanated young black men and women is it's been going on for centuries now, since the beginning of time, really. We are the ones that they have to use to harness the energy. And black people in America in particularly are some of the strongest in the universe, because we come from those ancient bloodlines and lineages that come from the ethers, that are cosmically connected through our DEA, our deoxyetheric acid. They know we got power. Hell, they use us in bombs. They use us to make computer chips. They use us for every damn thing. We are the spare parts to all of their living their luxury life and then making big money and becoming wealthy off of what they get from us and what they extract from our people. So with that being said, I have a friend, that's nephew just got snatched up off the streets, 4 days ago? No, a week ago. And they're putting out stuff now into the streets to try to figure out where this 13-year-old young African-American male is at. So it's starting to happen more frequently. And this guy is close to me. I work with him in Philadelphia, matter of fact. We worked in public health together. Now, his son is his nephew that is real close to his son is missing. So these are the things that are happening. And it's just not happening now to the sisters. The young girls, it's starting to, affect it, hit closer to home where, I know somebody personally who's out there on the street passing out flyers to try to find their nephew. It's getting out of hand, but I yield on that.
All right. Thank you for that addition, Brother Pollinator. Let me come over to Brother Knowledge.
Boy.
It's a hard one.
Oh man, I'm telling you.
Stirring the pot, yes, sir.
The illusion of inclusion that happens in regards to Eurocentric insanity. I want us to walk through this real quick. It's not gonna be real quick. I'm gonna just warn y'all now. It's not gonna be real quick, but I want y'all to know that I'm walking through this purposefully, if y'all allow me, if it's okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If I gotta do it quick, let me know. I'll do it quick. If I take a little bit of time, I gotta know it beforehand, because
can
you
we
start
do a
messing with
mid-pace?
my mics.
I'm about to say, can we do a mid-pace?
Yeah, I'll give it mid-pace. All right,
all right.
So the war between the United States and Great Britain, what was their offering to our ancestors in this country if they fought with the British?
It was freedom, if it wasn't mistaken.
Freedom. Keep that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is this happening in the UK of all places, where their strive and their goal was for people who served in their ranks in the war was freedom. That was the first thing that they would grant them. Freedom. Who could give you freedom? Nobody. Right? So the empire of the UK spun from the UK into India and all over the planet. Do you think that America was different from the UK? No.
Piece of the pie.
The same, right? So we're still British subjects. We still speak English, right? There goes we speak English. That's funny. I'm telling you, the way these dots get connected is crazy, right? The Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey transitioned June 10th of what year?
Not hearing anything.
I just want Captain Uncaged to walk with me because he's a fact checker. I don't want to be saying something. He'd be like, "That ain't true, bro." Now you understand?
Oh, okay.
Okay, got you. 1887. He was born.
When he transitioned in the UK in what year? June 10th.
Oh, 1940. Transition 1940.
Keep that date. 1940. June 22nd, 1948. What happened? 1,000 Caribbeans came over by boat on the HMT Empire into Tilbury, Essex.
Yep.
The person who was in charge of the UK at the time was King George VI. Do you know what he was known as? He was the last emperor of India. So if you were in charge of the UK, you were considered an emperor in India. You understand what I'm saying to you? The British India Company, right? So, for the poli-sci folks that are here, you got to know how to connect dots and put stuff together. You can't hear one thing and be like, oh, this is happening in one thing. I want you to see under the guise of the theater because that Indian lady, she hurt my equilibrium listening to her talk, but I was striving to take notes to put this thing together. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm like, if I know Kevin Cage, he got a couple of joints. So it's like, all right, let me get somebody who got a little remnant of the English. And then it was the AI talking. And then we heard about these people from the UK, again, fake trafficking, working out of Silicon Valley, got these apps that's approved for you to go buy a wrench and a winch at the same time. So we heard about the dark web, the deep web, right? Am I tripping?
You're right.
It don't even have to be there no more. It's right there on the app. You got an app on your phone that Silicon Valley developed and approved for you to be able to buy you some people.
That's a fact.
You used to have to go through the adoption process in America, quote unquote, right? That was a version of the slave auction. They could come into your house and steal your children and sell them to another family. They could kick in your door and say such and such got a warrant, like the slave catchers our pollinator was talking about earlier. They could just come snatch you up out of your house and put you in the prison house. And then they put you on work release and you got to work off of debt for them. Remember, the prison houses were debtors' prisons here in America. Debtors' prison. That's why you get a sentence. And if you owe a debt, you could go to jail in some of these Commonwealth states. The Commonwealth governance and economy situation comes from the UK. You can go to prison to work off a debt. If you owe the state some money, if you owe some fines, You can just go to prison and pick cotton in Texas, and your debt is forgiven. So I want us to have this kind of mind frame where I'm talking about this walk in regards to what this is, because we endured this. And when we start to speak about this, people are like, oh, here y'all go with that old slave talk and all this old slave babble and blah, blah, blah. But let the 13th Amendment come out. Then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I didn't know that's what that meant. You understand what I'm saying? Like, so if you're in prison, this is the only place where they can treat you as somebody in servitude. You subjects of Great Britain, located in the United Kingdom, with their step daughter Israel. So I want us to be able to see this in a perspective in this regard. If the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey was in the prison house over there until his transition of June 10, 1940, where in the world, so I'm going to watch my language because Doc Empress is in here, where in the world do you think they got this idea to replicate his species over here in the UK? Oh, we can get them to do this slave labor because we about to go bankrupt. We about to go up under. We about to fold. We can't even function anymore. And we can't get our people to do any labor. They can't do no labor. They don't even understand what that is. They can barely wash their daggone behind. You understand? So let's get these people in on the slave ship. I mean a cruise ship. I mean a slave ship. I mean a cruise ship. I mean this boat, right? And have them come in and do our labor for us, and we'll treat them like they're citizens until we don't need them anymore. We get back on our feet, and we deny any record of their existence. We don't know how they got here. So, Captain Occasion, when they get slick with us and they be like, well, ain't no way all these people came in the slave ships. Well, where all of the slave ships? Not in 1848, not in 1748, in 1948, post-World War II, a ship with an undisclosed number, they gave a number, they said 1,027, but we know how they lie, of people from the Caribbean, and they put out ads, and they sent out mail like, yo, son, it's popping over here, you know what I'm saying, you looking for a job? We got some dope for you.
Get on the boat.
Get on the boat. We ain't gonna put you down in the middle of the boat.
Bows, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have you in the bows. I don't think. So this becomes the thing where they put it back in the material view with the Caribbean, and the Caribbean coming into the UK, thinking of some sort of elitism, right? So these generations, we're talking about 3 generations, 6 decades of folks going back and forth and looking at this like a sanctuary country. And then after the 60 years, the expiration date, they're like, man, what are y'all doing here? Oh, no, we've been here. Like, you know, we came on the Empire Windrush. We didn't pay taxes and worked all of this time. They're like, what are you talking about? They're like, what are you talking about? You understand? So you're treating people bad that came in there seeking asylum from West Africa, from your homeland. You looking at them like they crazy. You know, they're like, oh, you know, what are you doing here? You foreigner? I'm British. You understand what I'm saying? And then they send you back to places. They said they sent them back to places that they hadn't been or seen since they came there.
Right.
So look at the mind job in regards to this quote unquote place of creature comfort on that island. It ain't even a country, you know, and it's a dirt hole. You know, the same way they be talking about these other places, right? It's a little dirt hole. Nothing grows over there, nothing. Like they had tea and didn't even have sugar. You understand what I'm saying? Like they didn't even know that the sugar cubes was something that they had to import in, and they still have to import in, you know, to that dirt hole that they call Europe. You know, I don't know how anybody wants to go vacation over there, but that's another story, right? We know it's really Asia. It's like an Asiatic island of, you know, Asia. Right? You know, these mind jobs in regards to what this elitism seeks to try to provide is exceptionalism. So they had something called, I just want to tie in the story to the last story about, you could buy you a maid or, buy you a slave online. They had something called au pair. Au pair is not a nanny, right? Au pair is something different. Au pair in the French means equal. Just imagine this. You got somebody that you're responsible for their food, clothing, and shelter, and you bring them in as an equal, but you confiscate their passports, and then they look at this aspect of the trafficking from that regard, and then they made it popularized with that movie Taken with Liam Neeson. You understand what I'm saying? Where they're showing you, showing this one guy on his Rambo mission to go find his daughter. And where were they selling her? They were selling her online. To whom? Everybody from around the world, but also, who was the winner? Some Arabic speaking dude. You understand what I'm saying? Some prince who wanted this American girl. So these are the realities that it looks like, but it's only an atrocity when it starts to affect them. So, but even them saying the word slavery in the news clip is something viral because what did the United Nations just vote on? Slavery.
Absolutely.
We was not talking about slavery before that in that tense. We was even whispering trafficking because they were banning and blocking channels and people for misinformation or what they deem fake news and all of this stuff. But these are now headlines. They can now put this in their publications, digital or otherwise, because of the language. The language has to be subsided because the general public in the mainstream news had reported on it already. So now they're equating human trafficking and slavery with the same language. I told you that it's theater, right? When they talked about the increasing of slave labor, they called it forced reproduction. Y'all peep that? And on the screen, they had chickens in a cage laying eggs. Look at the theater, right? So the theater, they have the theater of that with the underplay, but the overplay looks like they're standing staunchly against this, and they're working in the UK tirelessly to put this thing to bed. And what do they do with the theater? They show some rescue workers taking somebody away to refuge, to safety, right? After they show the flag, right? They show these rescue workers taking somebody into slavery. So how they put these things together, I said slavery. That's what I really meant. Safety, right? Same thing, right? Because you can't identify the person or the perpetrators that are taking, right? So this theater in regards to putting all this together is they have always come under the guise of the liberator, yet they've always been the enslaver. You understand what I'm saying? So they act like they're coming to liberate a people, to liberate a nation from tyranny and oppression, and this is wrong, and blah, blah, blah. And here they come, with their Superman colors on, in their flag, like, they coming to save the day. And they pay for it on the underplay and then get paid off of it in the overplay. All of these things work together in the regard and under the guise of this goldfish memory. One of the dates for one of those sessions, I believe, was June 20th, if I'm correct, right? June 20th. Oh, excuse me, May 20th. Pardon me. May 20th is Toussaint Louverture's birthday, May 20th, right? So Toussaint Louverture, for the Ethereans listening out there, was a military war strategist, liberating general in the Haitian Revolution. So after he defeated the European powers, after he whooped all of their behinds, they invited him to the UK, where they took his life and the life of his wife. The same fate of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. The same fate of that's one trip where there was 1,200 people. They made trips in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. So this 30-year time span, since we just think people can't disappear, all these people disappear and nobody knows where they're at, it happened. And it continuously happened. And it's happening right now as we speak. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to be mindful of looking at all of these things. And then once something comes up in the public, what are the underlying ramifications in regards to what it is? So I see you got the next clip ready, so I saved the rest. I yield.
All right. Much appreciated. And thank you for that addition and information, Brother Knowledge Born Alive. All right, family. So yeah, this stuff is real. It's taking place today on a daily basis, multiple times a day. There is an international trafficking ring that has been in operations for probably at least a decade. All right, at the least. Okay, so just be aware, situational awareness, train, study, learn, protect your neck, protect your family. All right. And, we have to rebuild our communities in order to stay, some of the attacks that are happening and are being waged against us on multiple different levels and scales. All right. So, again, I got to call on the men and be able to step up in their proper place and position to at least be deterrents, right? So they don't think it's so sweet to come in and snatch up our women and girls. All right. So it's well past time that we get on page and on point and do what we need to do as a unit collectively for our Black men in order to protect our Black women, our families and children, and our communities. All right, family. So with that being said, quick segue. I'm about to close out for this evening. I want to play one more. I'm going to play a little briefing of this clip, and I'll show you the article, the summary, and then a little bit of ethereal inspiration, and we're going to get up out of here for this evening. All right, so you see the title on the screen. All right, the Trump administration is waging war on Black Americans. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick listen and see what's going on.
It was 3 months ago tonight when the president posted online a video depicting former President Barack Obama and former First Lady Michelle Obama as if they were apes. President Trump did later take it down. He refused to apologize for it and still hasn't to this day. That was 3 months ago. It was 5 months ago when Donald Trump confirmed something that he had previously long denied. Back in his first term, President Trump had told a group of senators at the White House that he thought it was terrible that immigrants to America were from S-hole countries. And according to reporting at the time, he named some predominantly Black countries, and he said they were S-hole countries, and couldn't we instead have immigrants from predominantly white countries? He mentioned Norway. Since countries with white populations are apparently good, and countries with Black populations are swear words. So Donald Trump said that in his first term, and when it was reported that he had said that, he denied it. He said he had never, ever used that language. But then just a few months ago, he started bragging proudly, weirdly at a speech in Pennsylvania. He started bragging that, yes, actually, despite all those earlier denials, of course, he had used that term. And moreover, he still believes it. Predominantly Black countries are S-hole countries. This administration, I think it's clear from just the repeated daily news cycle. I think this administration is bad at everything they set their mind to. They're terrible in the courts, to the point where like their performance in court jeopardizes the law licenses of everybody who speaks for them. They're terrible in the court of public opinion, which you can see in the polls, which is going to have a big political impact on them the next time people get a chance to vote for them en masse. They're terrible, really terrible at all the technocratic, practical stuff a government is supposed to do, including like basic stuff like the weather. They're terrible at war, terrible at diplomacy. They're even terrible at hiding the ball in terms of how much this president does whatever Vladimir Putin wants, even when it makes no sense for us. They're just not great. They're bad at basically everything they try to do.
All right, let me stop the screen share there really quickly, family. All right, because I don't want to get into her dissertation there. Let me just show you the quick and dirty of it with this quick story. All right, and so this is the summarized version. Trump administration is waging war on Black Americans. All right, Trump rescinded federal contractor anti-discrimination rules and prohibition on segregated facilities, allowing potential workplace segregation. On day one, Trump declared war on diversity programs across government, school, law firms, and private businesses. Administration fired or forced out numerous high-profile Black officials, including military leaders and agency heads. Federal workforce cuts disappropriately targeted agencies employing Black Americans, reversing progress not seen since 1912 resegregation. Actions represent fastest backward movement for Black federal workers in over 100 years. I'm surprised they did not also mention, let me stop my screen share there, the recent gutting of the Voting Rights Act that was displayed in Louisiana, and that is, being taken on by other countries who are doing gerrymandering of the districts in order to get more Republican representation. Okay, so these are the things that are happening currently with this administration, family, and hopefully a lot of individuals are getting their Negro wake-up call. Okay, the alarms have been sounding, are being sounded. All right, and hopefully folks are waking the hell up. It don't matter what your position, what your place, what your supposed to be status is, what you think it is or it's supposed to be, and hopefully we don't continue to make those errors and mistakes and thinking that we are safe with our proximity to the Caucasian, right? And recognize and realize that we are in the same fight. And the minute that those folks who are in place and in power feel as though you are no longer of use, they will very readily and happily get rid of your ass. Okay, so let's keep those things in mind, family, and let's least we forget and repeat the same mistakes of our past. All right, with that being said, let me come to the Ethereal Journalist one more again before I get to my last clip with our Ethereal inspiration and close out for this evening. What say you, Ethereal Journalist? Any additions with that last bit of info? Okay.
I know y'all got something to say. Don't have me going.
Right. Probably they didn't got nothing for that.
Nah, man, I'm ears in the night, man, because my man back, man. I love to hear it. I'm learning a whole lot from my brother KBA.
Dig.
I'm trying to be a sponge tonight and absorbs.
Dig. All right, let me kind of brother KBA on that one. Then and if we have any last comments, I'll come to Sister Empress last.
It's theater and more theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
We grew up watching Scarface, Say goodnight to the bad guy. Right? So if everybody's looking at the U.S., guess who they're not looking at?
Israel,
Right? And who
Russia,
else? Right? And who else?
China,
Yes, who else?
The United Emirates.
But who's America's the direct emissary, the stepchild daughter of?
Oh, I said Israel first.
That's first. So y'all remember what was that? The Doctor Strange multiverse?
Mm-hmm.
America had two mothers. America didn't have no father. America had two mothers. So one is Israel. Who's the other?
Great Britain.
Okay, finally, right? So that little island of Asia, right? Those are the two mothers, right? So now it shows how they rules. Like both of them are excluded from this, even though we just implicated them earlier, right? So it goes to this place where the CEO of the corporation who was born on Flag Day and America's the United States Army's birthday, right? June 14th. You have the most patriotic of the patriots, so to speak. And we know what the Patriots do, right? I ain't watched football in some years, but I know I remember they had the Ballgate situation where they was doing this the spy net, spying on the other teams, and was proud of it, right? And the NFL said, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? So Trump had something to say about the players kneeling. Y'all remember that?
Sure, for sure.
Yeah. Called them SOBs. You remember when he went to Puerto Rico, which is a place that's supposed to be American in the Caribbean? During their crisis, he tossed them that little what was the thing?
A roll of toilet paper, a roll of
paper towel.
Paper towel, yeah.
So he's doing all of these things, right? These are all of the things, and this is not in jest. I want you to see the level of disrespect, because these folks will still be the loyalists, right? They'll still say, at least we're not the black people in America, right? They'll do that. They'll play that game. Moreno, Negrito, whatever, and even worse, all the way to the N-word, So these are the same people until they suffer some sort of injustice, and then the ice get cold, and the ice wind up rounding people up. Then all of a sudden they're like, "Yo, where y'all at?" You understand what I'm saying? So they'll play all of these games. This dude will say all of this stuff about these black nations. What is he supposed to say, right? I think it was Doc Empress or somebody had posted the story about all of those countries that took the vaccines for the healthcare agreement. Those black nations in Africa. Those black countries in Africa, am I tripping? Is that out of, we got the goldfish memory with that, right? We got the goldfish memory with that. So it's like it happened, blink, blow, we come out with this thing that the U.S. and a couple other nations voted no for in regards to looking at reparations or deeming this sort of thing the greatest atrocity in human existence. And then you get this you want this, you want to continue to keep getting this aid in this aid to medicine, you better sign up for this healthcare situation. All these things happening simultaneously, and they have it to where you don't know if this is credible or not credible. This is where they want you to fall away from your thinking and say, I ain't my job. Y'all do all the thinking for us. This is what they're training large language models for in that regard, to do the thinking for you. And it looked like a thing of convenience. If y'all saw that movie Surrogates, that's really the furthest extension of where this is in regards to, they showed it as still human but transhumanism, as y'all speak about, y'all spoke about greatly on this platform, you know, to the greatest degree that I've seen from a place that I trust. So they pushing, you know, transhumanism, but cultural, you know, I mean, culpable dependency on your own destruction. They're not talking about how much these large language models and working this AI thing, blah, 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 over and over and over is doing to the planet, is doing to the water, is doing to the natural resources. I mean, they're not even speaking on it. The effects of your mind when your mind is not being used, your brain when your brain is not being used. All of these things, the ethereal ramifications, the spiritual ramifications, the emotional ramifications. Somebody can't even send you a damn text on the phone without using AI. AI is texting you. They ain't texting you. I'm like, you can't text no more. You understand what I'm saying? So what are we setting up our next generations to be? Mindless cannon fodder for the machines? Don't be telling me y'all seen all this Third Eye Matrix, Terminator, all of this stuff, and don't think that this thing don't have to come to fruition. You know, AI is Skynet. You understand what I'm saying? Like y'all bugging out with some of this stuff. So I'm like, all right, you know, these things always look fair seeming, you know. So this guy looks like the boogeyman, and he's the sacrificial lamb for all of the global elites that is happening and blah, blah, blah. He's just a puppet monkey on the string. Well, he does the bidding and takes the fall and the brunt for everybody else, right? So he looks like that. I'm not absolving him of anything. I got something written with his name on it. You understand what I'm saying? But everything else in that regard, in this space of a weapon of mass distraction. And how many times are they going to run that simulation before we wake up? So I agree with you, Captain Uncaged, Brother Moon, in regards to what it is. Like, you know, what is it going to take? It's going to take the ability to be made uncomfortable, right? So we need a memo to let us know that, you know, a presidential administration has declared war on its Black population. You understand what I'm saying? Like we like, and to see the gall of her, like, oh, like she did something with that. You know what I'm saying? Like she did her best Jane Elliott, Tim Wise impression up there. You understand what I'm saying? Like you're talking about something that you benefit for. We wouldn't even see that that skullduggery face of hers if it wasn't for this regime that's in place. You understand what I'm saying? So we'll start looking at that, be like, oh, we got allies. You see, they understand our plight, you know, better than some of us. And we'll fall for that trick and end up in the cage. You understand what I'm saying? End up in the cage. So, you know, salute to Captain Uncaged for continuously bringing up, you know, aspects and topics that help us uncage our mind and uncage our consciousness. You understand? And I'll yield with that.
I say.
Right.
And with that being said, let me come to Sister Empress for any.
So for me, again, just another powerful segment of our ethereal journey. You know, these things that we are talking about and assessing, it's just really, for me, par for the course, as they say, meaning it is what I would expect be happening today. When you look at history, the past, and certainly what we're seeing now is just a continuation of what we have been seeing. And like everything else, you know, things tend to develop or elevate or go to another level every 20 years or so. So none of this is of any real surprise, I think, to most of us or to some of us. And again, one of my primary focuses now is what we gonna do. That's really, for me, that's really the big thing. All this other stuff is expected.
At this stage of the game, we definitely know more about our enemy or enemies, and therefore have certain kinds of anticipations because we've seen some of this stuff before, but be it in our time or from historical perspective. So again, for me, it has to be more about what is our plans going to be to move us forward, because we should already know that other people are not going to do it for us, and we shouldn't expect them to anyway. We're in a war, as many have said, but what does that mean in real time? And certainly your enemy is not going to be about helping you advance. That's not how war is done. So, we can't keep saying these things that we know and then don't act like we know. So at any rate, another great ethereal journey. Looking forward to next week.
All right. Now, one more clip to play. We're going to play this clip of Ethereal Inspiration. Get ready to close out for this evening. I'll get the additional final thoughts and closing remarks from the rest of the journalists. And we will see y'all Saturday for New Day Resurrection and Liberation, and also for Sunday for our meeting for the Ubuntu Justice Jubilee. All right. So with that being said, let me come to our last clip and let's let it rock.
Didn't know how to read. All I did was steal, rob, and play with guns. I found myself in jail, did 14 years, not because I did a heinous crime, because I didn't know how to read. I taught myself how to read through Bible scriptures that my auntie wrote. All right. I didn't know how to read the words because I didn't ever know how the words look. But I knew how the words sound, and I knew the scriptures by heart. So I wrote them every day until I memorized Psalms 23, Psalms 27, Psalms 100, Matthew chapter 5, James chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1. I know all of them by heart because I wrote them every day. But the unity movement is because I had to become one with the individuals that saw light in me while I was in prison. The ones that saw that I could be something better. Because all the people that I was in the cell with, they had natural life, 80 years, Menard and Stateville. It's people that will never see the day again. I have friends that died and lost their life while I was in slavery. Because prison is slavery. For anybody that think that slavery don't no longer exist, it exists. And it will continue to exist until we eradicate the prison system. But nevertheless, we on unity right now. Now, our kids is the future. So I joined the unity movement primarily because I know kids they don't get nurtured enough. They don't get cultivated enough. They don't get loved on enough. But if you look around right now, you got people from New York, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago. We are all linked.
Elijah Muhammad said, not one of us will have to raise a sword. Not one gun would need to fire. The great cannon that will be fired is our unity. That means the power of our unity is enough to match the weapons of whatever enemies we have. So keep that in mind, man. When you feel like you got to go pick up a gun, you got to go pick up a weapon, maybe take a moment to talk with your brother, confide in your brother, let your brother know what's going on, because he might have a word for you that will stop you in your tracks and make you realize we don't need these cardinal weapons. We don't need the weapons of our enemies.
Women out here alone, I believe we got everything we need to really revolutionize the trenches in our communities all over the world. But oftentimes what stand in between our ability to do that is division over small stuff, who you call God, what you say God look like. You understand what I'm saying? What color you in, what region you in. That's right. Our inability to be able to trust each other because we done lied and stole from each other for so long as a result of being conditioned in the system that made us liars, killers, and thieves. You understand what I'm saying? So the unity movement is breaking down those barriers, man. You got brothers from all different walks of life, Christians, some of us are Muslim, some of us Seventh-day Adventists, some of us trying to find God. We know God real, but we just don't know who he is yet, and we looking for him, right? The unity movement is that hub in that community where if you want better, and you looking for better, you can come together as a young black man and find your circle, find your unit.
Look, this is the eye of the trenches.
All right. Let me stop my screen share there. All right, family. So let me come to Ethereal Journalist for final thoughts, closing remarks before we get ready to close out for this evening.
Yeah, I think that was a bit
possible.
Hello?
Yep. No, I said I'm just going to try to keep it brief if possible. Got it.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yep. Yeah, I thank you for playing that because that shows you, he had a Malcolm X type of journey, you know, learning how to read and write in prison and doing it from the things that his grandmother or his mother gave him, you know, concerning scriptures. And that's how he learned how to do what he's doing. And these are the great stories that we have to continue to tell throughout our history and her story, because we all got a story because it's written in our DNA, our DEA, you know, like we've been talking about tonight. And like brother KBA had mentioned as well, you know, these are stories and we have to tell them, and we got to be transparent nowadays. We got to be straight with no chaser concerning what we are as the truth that is walking within our true authentic selves, and be very transparent as much as we can so that people can learn our stories and be inspired by our stories without us, you know, having to think that, you know, oh, my story is too traumatic, or I gotta, you know, not say what I need to say to inspire somebody that might be listening. It might be one person out of 100 people that might hear what you got to say, and what your words planted in that person's soul as a seed can pollinate a beautiful harvest from that one individual thing that you planted as a word seed into that individual. Not the other 99 might not get it. That's why I always say I never discount anybody in my presence. And I just want people to continue on their ethereal journey and tell your story, because our stories mean something, because we have to tell them, because we've allowed too many other people to tell our stories, steal our heritage, steal our spirituality, steal our culture. And we still are sitting around here trying to figure out who we are. That's ridiculous to me. And that includes any and other nations of people that may have had their stories sort of rescripted and reprogrammed them to think it's something other than what it truly was in its actual historical context and historical context. So with that being said, I just want to say upward, forward, onward. Let's continue on in our ethereal journeys. You know, show yourself some self-love, love yourself. If you don't love yourself, nobody else will. Bet on yourself too, because if nobody else is going to bet on you, always bet on yourself, because you have enough confidence within yourself to know that you can get it done if nobody else can sort of support or help you get it done. Bet on yourself at all times. Know yourself enough that you have the ability to stand 10 toes down to the ground if you have to on your own sometimes, until you get to the point where you can unify with everybody else that's on the same frequency as you. So with my soul family, my soul tribe here at the Ethereal Journey podcast, I just thank you guys. Not you guys, but thank you, beautiful kings and queens and gods and goddesses, for the information that you guys, you know, blessed us with tonight. And I hope the Ethereal Journey, the audience, learned something. So I'm going to say upward, forward, onward, UFO, shalom, and one.
All right, excellent. Let me come over to Brother Knowledge One. Live final thoughts, closing remarks.
I keep it brief. I'm very familiar with Brother Golden Child. They were outside of Mas Mariam. And I know that unity movement in action, you know, personally, you know, in the trenches, going, you know, street corner to street corner in different areas of Chicago and across the United States. You understand what I'm saying? And they're working to get people off of drugs and out of the gang life and all kinds of things, working with brothers, you know, in and out of prison and people on the street. So that's one of those verifiable movements that is necessary, regardless of what your political, spiritual, emotional, whatever ideology is. You understand what I'm saying? Like that the unification of our people is a must, you know. And they were talking about, you know, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said, he also said our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. So glad to be back here tonight with the fam. I know I've been ripping and running, you know what I'm saying? I had some other stuff to do. I was like, I can't leave again, you know what I'm saying? So let me just, you know, keep it for as long as I can. And, you know, good to see my, you know, family here, my Ethereal Journey family, episode 46, another great one.
Yes, sir. True
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
And let me come. I don't know if you have any addition, final thoughts, closing remarks from Sister Empress.
Okay, just very briefly, hopefully next week we will be able to have, at least for a little while, not long, because he goes to sleep pretty early, but we're trying to get Brother Mike Africa Jr. to join us next week for May the 12th. And of course, that's the day before May 13th. We're looking to announce here at Ethereal the formation of the Independent Commission that will now be
in place to examine the 1985 bombing that took place here in Philadelphia. Our intention is, as we move forward with Ubuntu, at the end of that 3-year period, we want to be able to take the case of the bombing here in Philadelphia to Geneva to at least have it put on the record that it was, in fact, a crime against humanity, i.e. genocide. That has not been done. Particularly in modern day, it hasn't been done, period. But certainly something like that has not been done, meaning there was a civil suit that was filed. That civil suit was won, but it has not been taken any further. And so it is our pleasure to be able, the We Charge Genocide 21 movement will be able to facilitate taking that particular case and a few other cases into the international court. And again, to educate the masses, not just here in the U.S., but educate the masses worldwide that a bomb was in fact dropped in an urban environment, et cetera, et cetera. And so that will enable the future generations to have information and the capability to know what this system is capable of. We have to make sure that they're prepared to a greater extent to not rehash a whole lot of stuff unnecessarily, that they will know without a shadow of a doubt. There's no guessing. There's no, I thought, none of that. We want to make sure that things are in place where they can literally see for themselves that this is what has happened in a more contemporary time, not just 400 years ago or 200 years ago, but in a more recent time period. So again, we look forward to having you all to join us again next week. That would be May the 12th. Talk to you then.
All right. Get ready to close out this session for this evening. Thanks to the journalists once again. Now, I got to add in really quickly that, I'm glad to see that type of progression, that type of organization, unity amongst the men. So shout out to the unity movement. Now, I myself work towards, putting together a cadre. As a matter of fact, when the brother was speaking, it was almost mirroring some of the similar or same things that I would say or was saying during these meetings. I launched, it was about almost 4 years ago now. I had to put a pin in it and put it on the back burner because there were some things that were happening personally, and I wasn't really getting the support that I wanted and needed. So I take a note from Brother Pollinator with, sometimes you got to stand on your dolo. But that organization was called the Mighty Meiotic Men of Violent Action Network. All right. So that was a brotherhood, a mentorship program, a rites of passage program, and a fellowship for Black men. All right. And so, toting some of those same lines, being able to dispel some of the differences, some of the divisions, politically or, theologically and so forth, and being able to come together on common grounds that we are Black men and we need to push these things forward in that manner, right? As far as unity, collectiveness, and a united type of front. Okay. So I'm going to be relaunching that in the near future. And, I'm just going to take it one step at a time and keep pushing forward. All right, I'm getting back in the levels of stability that I would like to, that I would need to be, mentally, spiritually, physically, financially. And so I'm ready to relaunch that program in the very near future. So definitely look out for that. As we continue to build, to learn, grow, and develop. All right, family. So with that being said, the Mighty Meiotic Men of Violent Action Network will be making a resurgence, and hopefully I can get some support. Black men, this means you. All right, with that being said, we're going to close out for this session of Ethereal Journey podcast. I want to give thanks first and foremost to the Most High Creator creatures. Give thanks to the ancestors and the elders, those who have shed blood, sweat, and tears and paved the way to allow us to be here today. I want to thank you all. All right, all the supporters, thank you for your time, energy, and effort, dedication, determination, and discipline. I bid you all truth, justice, peace, love, freedom, power, prosperity, protection, patience, and divinely principled purpose. I want to say, let us continue to strategize, organize, and mobilize. And finally, family, I want to say, Pamoja Tutashenda, which means together
we will win.
All right, peace and love,
Upward,
family.
forward, onward, family UFO. Shalom. One.